I've been used by the useless, my whole body's covered in bruises, consumed by the clueless, so full of lies and excuses. I've let you take enough from me, I'm jumping ship to watch you sink. When you look back and I'm still standing, remember every time you it makes me stronger than before. When you it fuels the fire even more. So give me all you got, I'll get back to what you got. If there's one thing you should know about me, don't ever tell me.
It is good to be back. I love you guys too. I love every single one of you. Think back, over a decade ago, a group of dreamers, storytellers, and gamers set out to create a community, a scene, and a family, really. And what did we get in the last 10 years? Think back to everything we got in the SMITE 1 Pro League. Every moment, every play, every world championship over the past 10 years. How special, how unbelievable is that we all got to share in that? And here we are once again, 10 years later, following in their footsteps, a group of dreamers, gamers, and storytellers. So allow me to welcome you all here live in Vegas and everyone around the world watching to the SMITE 2 Founder Series in Las Vegas. I have to mention, bar's open, by the way, for anyone who's ready to get things going here. And I know we are. It's 2 o'clock somewhere, East Coast time, right? We're 3 hours ahead. We have an absolutely packed slate of games for you here this weekend. We battled the best teams from around the world to qualify in to the SMITE 2 Founder Series here in Las Vegas. A grueling 6-month effort for teams to whittle themselves down, and then there were 6. The page is now open. The story is blank. The SMITE 2 chapter has been turned, and by the end of this weekend, the first team will etch its name into the stone of SMITE 2 World Champions. So allow me to introduce you 4 teams that we'll be seeing later today before we meet your first matchup. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming 4 of your teams here to the SMITE 2 Founder Series, starting with Mockingbird. Next to Mockingbird, welcome Borscht. We got some teams from EMEA here. It's Team Risk. Last but not least, up in the balcony is Smoke Break. Those teams will be waiting in the wings around us all day long, ready to play their games. Welcome to the stage for the first matchup of the day. It's Food Drive for Globe. Some world champions hoping to grab themselves another title. It's 5M's. the J Dragons fans, they follow us everywhere. I hear you guys back in there. What a story you guys got to end SMITE 1 on. We got some players up here hoping to pick up right where that J Dragons team left off. We got 4 games for you here today, 3 for you tomorrow, a double-elim style tournament. Let's get things started. What do you say? Let's head on over to the desk to get things kicked off.
Thank you so much, Dave. Of course, thank you everyone who's tuning in again. The SMITE 2 Founder Series here in Vegas. It is going to be a fantastic time. My name's Gormizer, and of course, I couldn't do things on the desk alone. I've got 2 lovely friends here. I've got Inbound and Hazer, who are going to be joining me throughout this one and throughout this weekend. And of course, there's so much going on. I mean, guys, like we had a whole open beta patch. We had I mean, that of itself, we could probably sit here and talk just like updates and how we think it could change competitive for hours. It would be very boring for everyone who's watching, but we could.
We'd like it.
We're not going to. The good news is that'll all come up as it happens in game and as it goes on. But there's so much. Not only that, like David mentioned, best of 3s today, which is going to be a very big deal. Double elim. Some of the teams, as we'll talk about a little bit later, already sitting down in that lower bracket. If you were watching in December, you saw what was technically day 1 of this LAN, although this is like the real day 1, right? The real deal in front of people. But with all of that, it feels like there's something to celebrate behind it, right? Like we're doing this for something. Like maybe something big happened recently, and that's got to be the reason that we're doing something. And it would maybe be because just a few days ago, SMITE 2 went free to play. Like you can go play it now. Before you had to get your Founders Edition to get in, but now you can try it out. Whatever platform you want to play on, go get in and play SMITE 2. If you saw a video 3 months ago and you thought, you know what, I want to let the devs cook a little bit, I'm going to tell you, they've been chefing it up in the kitchen.
They absolutely
is
cooked.
Phenomenal. It is so fun. It feels great. There's so much that lets you play the way you want to. I mean, the fact that I've seen Danzaburo jungle and that it has been successful, at least in my games, which I'm kind of surprised by, not gonna lie. The aspect, there's so much. You should really go check it out. It is free now, and of course you can always go to smite2.com if you want to get some of those cosmetics and exclusives to pick up things on top of that. But that's not the only thing that's happening this weekend. Not only is it free to play, which by the way, keep us up on your second monitor if you're checking it out. There's also going to be a lot of drops. This is why you want to keep us up on the second monitor while things are going. We've got Twitch drops that are going on all weekend long. Watching both 2 and 4 hours every single day will get you a ton of different things. Today, you'll be able to get the Founders Ace title, you'll get the Order Champion badge. Tomorrow, you can get the Chaos Champion badge and the Up the Ante Global. And then, of course, this is the one that is important. On January 19th, the very last day, you come in, you can receive the Founders Vegas Series card effects, and of course, if you watch 4 hours that day, which it'll be grand finals, you'll have a treat and you'll want to be here. You can receive Jade Dragons Bologna in this skin. Bobby's literally been asking about it for 3 days.
I've asked like 6 different people to give it to me because I need that skin so bad.
I mean, it's just, Hazer, I'll admit I'm kind of a sucker for it. I love Bologna. That finals, getting to cast it means that it has a very special place in my memory. I'm gonna need to make sure that I have a computer or something open. I'll tell Katie, like, hey, open the TV, turn Twitch on. Like, just make sure that I can get the viewership while I'm watching here. I guess I have a computer literally in front of me.
Yeah, you could open it right there.
Well, you know what? That's gonna actually be pretty easy. I can do that some other time. For now, we need to talk about like what's going on while we're here, how things are working. As mentioned, we've talked about it. Double elim bracket. That pretty easy to knock off into. 6 teams, double elim. You can see here matches that already happened. Again, this happened about a month ago. Team Risk took out Borscht. They are waiting for a matchup later today. That's why they were up in the balcony. Food Drive took out Mockingbird, and now you can see Mockingbird down at the bottom, again waiting for an opponent. Smoke Break and Risk will be facing off a little bit later. That's going to be a very fun one to watch. Of course, not only are we getting an EMEA matchup later, right now, as we introduce them onto the stage, we are getting a North American matchup. 5M's, Food Drive, these 2 teams have fought each other, honestly, quite a lot. The thing that's really interesting, and we can get into history and who it's leaned towards in a little bit. The thing that is going crazy for me right now, this is a best of 3. As we look at the schedule and you see, as Dave mentioned, 4 best of 3s today. Tomorrow, a best of 5 into 2 best of 3s. And then Sunday, the grand finals, a best of 5 with a potential best of 1 reset, right? If the lower bracket comes in and people's elbows the champion, you're going to send it one more game and then winner takes all, which is something pretty common here in Vegas, I think. It'll be a really, really fun one. But this matchup and these two teams, and really, you know, we'll probably be saying something similar for Risk and Smoke Break, where it's a matchup that's happened a lot and it's usually leaned one way. But here we are on a different patch with different gods, with different everything. And it feels like this is the spice of LAN, right? Like, Hazer, when you get here, especially, I mean, when you've had to coach in the past, like, you just kind of hope that you figured out the right thing.
Yeah, it's super interesting as well, because normally when we come into these events, which are cross-region, you have that separation of meta. But going into this one, we've actually had the regions scrimming each other coming into the tournament. Yeah. So we've got a bit of crossover in the meta. The teams kind of all know what the other region is playing and what they value. And so we're going to see the teams, I think, come in with a more similar meta than usual. And we're starting with NA versus NA. So we'll see exactly what the meta favors in that case.
Well, the thing that's really fun is not just getting our opinion. You're going to hear a lot of those throughout the weekend.
And we have a lot.
I was going to say, you guys intermittently, but you'll be here a lot with me yapping about SMITE 2. And trust me, we are opinionated. But there's 2 other guys that I think it's really important to make sure that we hear and get a good vibe check on, because we've got our casters. We've got Malum and Trelly, of course, Anthony Squared, who are sitting there in the venue and real stoked. You can hear the crowd behind him. How are you guys feeling?
Is that for us?
That was for us, I think, right? Totally. It was totally for us. It definitely wasn't for Bobby and his opinions. That's 100% for sure.
Yeah, nobody cheers for those.
Exactly. But no, thanks for checking in, because it's been great out here. We've heard everybody out here cheering the whole time. I can tell you guys are feeling pretty good, right? Yeah, I think they're feeling pretty okay.
Absolutely, man. It's an electric venue. If you're watching online, you're still going to get a great experience, and we're hyped up too.
Yeah, pretty hyped up. We've been jazzed. We keep looking around. We're waiting. And the first matchup, too, is fantastic. Not to brag, I was the food drive for Globe stand in the open tournaments that we had before the Founder Series began. I said, watch out for this team in August. And they're here now, and they're in the winner's bracket.
Malum liked Food Drive before they were cool, but we also had some predictions that you guys are going to see later, and maybe some other people believed in Food Drive. I don't know.
Absolutely. Maybe it'll be surprising. Who knows? But unfortunately, but no, I'm kidding. Fortunately, they're going to give us some great opinions and some great breakdowns the closer we get to game. Desk, back to you guys.
That's your last one.
That's 2.
I feel like that might be a threat.
No.
But to Malum specifically, maybe, well, Chelly catches some strays.
A little bit.
Like, it's part of the whole Anthony thing they got going on.
Which I just don't like.
Yeah, really?
Just don't like it.
See? Opinions. We got them. Whether good or bad, we got them. The thing that I think is really funny, and you want to specifically to go through this game by game, which we will, well, not game by game. I think you said match by match.
Yeah.
Which we'll do eventually. But up front, we had to sit down and we had to ask everybody, like, who do you think is going to actually win this whole thing? Which I quickly realized was very hard to decide. I feel like, if I remember correctly, a lot of people leaned one direction as you look where all of us, I think, put our chips in. I'm gonna get so many Vegas puns in, guys.
That's a good one.
Admittedly, I'm gonna apologize now, because they're probably gonna get worse as the weekend goes on, or be very, very repetitive. But wow, what an applicable put your chips in thing, because here we are. We got every team represented, which I think was really interesting. Obviously, a lot of people went in with 5M's. I think that is the safe bet, right? I just have a feeling like Smoke Break, depending on what happens, like those guys they're the underdogs that should never be underdogs. Like, it always feels like they get a land buff. I know that you two, though.
I'm a coward.
Well, yeah, you. I guess
I did 5M's. I stay on 16.
So, well, that'll get. That's been a question all weekend, by the way. Hazer, I know we're feeling, I believe, Mockingbird, right? And so it was something that I remember kind of being surprised by, because I think it was at the time nobody else had put it. I was making sure. I was like, I didn't want to influence anybody. And you were like, I think everyone said the same thing of like, well, 5M's is probably the safer bet. They seem like a really strong team coming into it. Maybe Risk, but you were really backing the Mockingbird boys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've got to watch a couple of their scrims and see a bit of the EU boys practicing. Obviously, I'm European. I've got to stick with my region, and I think they're probably right now the strongest of the 3 teams coming out of Europe. I know they're already in the losers bracket. They weren't so strong going into this tournament, but I think they're hungry. They've been practicing very, very hard. They've got youth on their side, and I think as long as they can deal with the crowd and the noise and the new experience to a lot of them playing in front of a big crowd like this, I think they really are in the running.
And that's a little insane when you compare it with like Team Risk and Smoke Break, the teams that kind of did a lot in the last tournament. I mean, Mockingbird played well, but I mean, Team Risk has these really high highs, really low lows. I really don't hate the Mockingbird call.
Well, you didn't like it enough to go with it, right? You went with
Not
5M's. Yeah, you
I like
were able to
5M's.
put it in, which makes me think I might know your prediction for what this set would be.
We'll find out.
But you know, we've talked a lot about this team, a lot. I've mentioned that everybody went in on them. You just saw 4 people out of 9 that decided to go in on it. Most people said, well, I don't want to join the crowd. Maybe I'll look somewhere else, see some upsets. But who are they and what do they feel? Well, good news is we got to sit down with 5M's. We got to hang around them. They got to go around Vegas a little bit. So to introduce them, here's 5M's.
Hello, my name is PBM. I'm the support and team captain for team name, but with 5M's.
I'm Cherio. I'm the solo laner for 5M's.
Yeah, for me, I was uncertain about playing. At first, I felt like the end of Season 10 was a pretty natural ending for me. But yeah, I think both Scream and Cyclone had messaged me separately, and I kind of like thought about it a little bit more, and I'm like, I'm not doing anything else anyway, so like may as well play.
I was always down. I just wanted to play because I missed it. And then I know he obviously wanted to play with Cyclone like for a long time. And then Scream was just the natural jungler that you would think of. And then we were basically just trying to fit in the last person. And a couple names floated around, and then I decided like, okay, I'll go solo. And I played against Benny a lot in ranked in season 11, like after Worlds. He was just owning, and I was like happy they put him on board. Personally, I've never been to Las Vegas before, but I'm excited. I'm probably not gonna go crazy or anything. I'm very careful with stuff like this.
I like the venue. I'm excited to go back there. It's gonna feel a little bit weird because it has been so long, and then it's hard not to have a good time, you know, playing a game that you love, and you know, hopefully have some chance to win some money and to do well as a team, and then you know, play poker with everybody and hang out. It'll be a good time.
I don't know what's our lose condition. Whenever I played on teams before, I always knew like this is our weak point or this is what we're not good at. I feel like we can be good at anything, so as long as we have some good practice, don't go too crazy in scrims, don't have like some massive implosion that happens to some teams before Worlds, I'm pretty confident that we're going to win it, yeah.
Yeah, I think our chances of winning the tournament are very, very high. I think I am a very smart player when it comes to adjusting mid-set and kind of out-prepping people, and I think Cherry and Spin are smarter than me. So I feel like the combination of that when we go into best of 5s, I feel like we have a lot of information on people, and I think we have a lot of different styles we can play, and I think we have a lot of tools at our disposal, and I think that makes us a really dangerous team.
So there were 2 things I immediately latched onto. First off, I think Cherry is playing it right. I was laughing because I was like, you know, when we were in Arlington last week or last week, wow. I was like, yeah, it was just cold walking to the venue. Like that's all you really got from the hotel. Here I was like, it's the only place that I felt on my way to work I could just like lose $10 because I see something shiny. Very fun though. Good on him, I guess, to hold on to it. But one thing that stood out, and we'll talk about this a little more, you know, the opinions I think on this team. A lot of these guys, Scream in particular, will do builds that people will have opinions about that are different. It's always really, really fun to see what they have. The mid-set adjustments, I think PBM was on point with that. And I'm really excited to see what they have. And you don't just have to take it from me or from him, but in the past. We've got PBM standing by on stage for a live interview.
That's right. Clearly you still got some fans here, Mike. These J-Dragons Mike fans, they seem to follow you everywhere. Back in front of a crowd, last time we saw you, a Game 5 World Championship win. What's it like being back?
It's awesome. It's cool to see all the fans travel. Smite's always had a hardcore, awesome community. So yeah, it feels good.
Was it you who signed somebody's forehead already? Did I see? Over there. That's right. You already signed somebody's forehead. Would you say that you come into this tournament as the favorites? I feel like a lot of the casters predicting you guys. It's been a long run up to here. Where do you think 5M stands here on day 1?
I'm always confident in myself, my teammates, and our abilities. I think it's hard to tell. We're playing on a completely new patch. The game has changed a lot. So yeah, we'll see.
What do you think some of the biggest changes the last time we saw you guys play to now here on the Vegas stage? What do you think the impactful changes are in SMITE 2?
You saw Aphrodite's back, right? That's kind of nice. Yeah.
depending on which part you're talking about, I'm here with you. Going up against Food Drive for Globe, who are you watching out for on the across the stage?
You always got to be careful if Big H happens a good player. They're all good. I think it's exciting to have some new faces up here and some young talent. So yeah, it should be fun.
Have some fun, Mike. Appreciate it. We'll go back to the desk.
I feel like for like almost a decade now, right? I mean, 2014 would be launch tournament. A couple years later is when Mike, I think, got like really, really big in the pro scene. I feel like I've been hearing PPM chants for almost a third of my life.
Yeah, he was on the Eager team in like season 3 that had like, it was like Zatman, Mike, and they had a bunch of fans, and then season 4 they obviously won. And then every single time it comes back to a big tournament, Mike's here, Mike's competing, and he has a ton of fans.
And that's, you know, Hazer, again, like what they said, the mid-set adjustments, like you've got guys who have been playing competitive games on stages even for so long now that the you know, we'll talk about it like, oh, maybe you've got the stage jitters, like there might still be some of that, but realistically, it might honestly start feeling like home for them.
I mean, there's so much tenure on this team. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, you look at Cherio, one of the smartest minds to ever play Smite, in my opinion. Yeah. He's been on really innovative teams coming out of Europe, and now on a North American team. He's won a championship as a coach, and now he's here to do it in solo and to be creative and to do nice things in that lane. And then you've got Spin and Scream alongside, and Benny's kind of the new blood in that mid lane, the sort of less experienced player there that's there to be explosive for this team, to be creative and to help them get a championship again.
And he's also like the same type of player as the other ones. Like, he will try to create the meta for himself. Like, he won't play a god because he thinks it's good. He'll play the god that he knows is good, that he likes. He doesn't care what other people play. And it's the same thing with Scream, same thing with Cherry, same thing with Mike. They just play the gods that they think is good. They don't care about the meta.
And realistically, coming into a LAN like this, maybe that's exactly what you need to do, right? So much has changed since the last time you played an actual competitive, you know, stress on the line matchup. That who knows what you're going to be facing. Of course, the team that they're facing is a team that originally I didn't know what to expect out of. Now, I think excellence is just the word. They come out, they play great. The other side of this matchup is Food Drive for Globe.
Hi, I'm Globe. I'm the mid laner for Food Drive for Globe, my namesake.
Yeah, and I'm Happen. I'm the support and team captain of Food Drive for Globe.
We've all been on different teams together at different points. There was a lot of drama starting out because we initially were just going to run it back with the same Shivalba Storm roster from last year with Pringles and Rat Milk, but we kind of thought that a change would have been better for us.
And Rat Milk got snatched up by Final K, right? So we had to maybe make some adjustments, but it actually kind of worked out in the long run because it kind of brought like a new hunger to us. The most important thing for team building is, I'd say there's two things. You need to, one, have the same goals, so everyone has to want the same thing out of whatever they're going for, whether that be winning Vegas or, you know, qualifying to playoffs or whatever, and then making sure everyone has like a good mentality that when you do suffer setbacks, because that's inevitably going to happen, you can adapt faster and just move on as a team.
Yeah, to tie that good mentality, like I said, trust is really important because that's the only way you get through losses and improve is if you trust that you're going to win next time you go into the game. I mean, our standout player has got to be Tegveer. I've thought this for a while. I've teamed with him for years. I knew he was going to carry me to the promised land when I first met him 4 years ago, and he hasn't let me down since.
We're a pretty balanced team, you know. We try and keep Globe in the mix. That's why it's called Food Drive for Globe. It was like kind of our charity tournament.
Yeah, it's carrying me.
Yeah, Globe needs food.
I need
pretty
food.
much the basis
of
it. Our team name, you know. So our Vegas winnings are going directly to this fund.
Hunger's the best motivator. That's what we say.
Oh yeah, I've never been to Las Vegas. There's like some danger, right, of me coming out with less money than I go in with. That's like the main thing I'm worried about going there.
I've been to Vegas a couple times, but all as a kid, never as an adult, so it's gonna be fun to hit the casinos, hopefully with my winnings.
We're probably the most confident team for what other people expect of us. We always like have full faith we're gonna win every match, even if we're 30K down or whatever. We just think we're gonna win it.
We're really confident. We all really trust each other a lot. That's the kind of the backbone of what makes us good, I think, and we go into every game thinking we're gonna win no matter how, because we're viewed as the underdogs a lot, but never to ourselves.
I feel it got used a lot in that interview, but the word trust was thrown around a bit, and realistically, like that's incredibly important. Especially, I mean, you're saying 30K down, that might be a little bit egregious, but trust in your teammates, especially like for feedback and stuff, like at mid-set adjustments. Like we're talking about that with 5M's. I think that's very applicable here for them as well.
Yeah, trust in food, I think, is they said those are their 2 drives.
Yeah, food being a big motivator is something like, I don't know if we've ever done a player interview that resonated with me at heart. That one got me. I'm with them.
I like that one.
And the good news is, guys, I'm going to be real. I don't know how to do a good segue for this one. We got him standing by live on the stage for an interview.
You did the best you could, Gore. Thank you very much. Down here on stage with Happen, support for Food Drive for Globe. First time for a lot of you playing live in front of a crowd. Explain the energy walking through the hype tunnel up there down onto the stage.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's obviously nothing like any of us have done before, but I mean, we're just really happy we got the chance, and we're really happy we could come out here and play in front of people.
And I asked Mike, you know, the game has changed a lot in the last month or two since we've seen you guys play. What are some of the big changes we should be on the lookout for?
Yeah, I mean, Mike was probably our biggest scrim partner like this whole Founders series, and we haven't played them in a month, so we know they're going to try and pull out some weird stuff. We're going to try and pull out some weird stuff. We're kind of just excited to see what they had planned.
Mike shouted out Aphrodite. Are you on the Aphrodite train as well?
Yeah, I could be persuaded to play some Afro.
Understood. We might see some Afro here today. 5M's, potentially tournament favorites. What are you looking out for on the other side of the stage?
I don't think it's like a specific player. They always come really prepped with the draft, so you have to make sure you match that energy and come really prepped as well.
Final question. I want you to settle something for me. The logo here, is that supposed to be Globe? Did you guys choose that because it looks like Globe?
Yeah, that is pretty much just why we chose it. This is Globe.
This happened. It's Food Drive for Globe. We'll go back to the desk to start this one off.
Honestly, applicable question and something that I was curious about the entire time. I was like, it's either a convenience thing or they did it intentionally. I'm glad to know that it was intentional. But something they mentioned, you need to do your homework. You need to know what your draft is. This might be one of the hardest questions I ask because I feel like there's a lot. So I'll go inbound first, then Hazer.
I'm ready. Thank you.
What do you think, if you had to choose like one change, like what is at the forefront of your mind that comes into this weekend that you're like, you need to know, like this being such a big pivotal difference?
I mean, I just think it's got to be aspects. I think
those are huge.
Is there not a worry in like P's and B's where you lock in a character and you just don't know which exact like style is going to be played? Like if you play against Raw first pick, is it going mid? Is it going solo? Is it going support? Like where's it getting played? And I mean, there's a bunch of different things we could talk about. This is the biggest change. I think it's aspects just because it throws a wrench into P's and B's. It throws a wrench into how you're going to play in game, and I think that's the thing that sticks out to me.
I think for me, I would go with the addition of the extra farm and the side jungles. I think that's going to be really, really significant in the way you want to play in duo and solo. And of using those teleporters to maybe go and take away enemy farm in those side jungles and builds changing to accommodate that. I think we'll see a lot of Boomba's Dagger in those side lanes to help farm out those camps.
Well, we've introed teams, we've talked about the format, we've looked at the bracket, we've got a match set up, and why not just get into it, picks and bans for game number 1. Starting off here, 5M's first pick over Food Drive for Globe. Gonna hear me say this a whole lot this weekend, guys, just because it is a very, very important change that happens even outside of the game. There is a second ban per team for every single one of these. So now instead of the 2 bans that we had, every other competition we've done, you've got 4 total. A couple extra gods that get knocked off out of the way. I mean, when you're looking at some of the newer gods that were added for this most recent patch, maybe won't be too surprised to see him up there. I will admit, Geb catches me a little off guard, though.
Yeah, and just a quick joke that Hazer said earlier that was just hilarious was there's 3 bans and an Aladdin. Like those are the bans. And starting with Geb into the Aladdin, it's no real surprise. But the Geb is a newer character. It's just such a strong, safe pick, no downside, not a ton of flex potential, but I think it's always just a good throwaway ban just because it's something that is that strong.
Medusa and Zeus as well.
Yeah, very interesting. So presumably this Medusa is sort of a throwaway ban. On first pick side, you have that luxury of maybe getting rid of gods that you don't believe are super, super strong for yourselves, but are strong for your opponents. And wow, we saw it mentioned in those interviews there, but Aphrodite, they were honest in their appetite for picking that god. Yeah,
that too often. Loki?
The Loki pick is something that I like because I think this is just, if Aladdin is gone, Loki is the go-to jungler. We've now seen it for, what, 2 months now, where Loki is just that best jungler. And it is It farms well, it's efficient in how it plays ganks, and it's a very good hyper farmer if you are losing team fights. So it just does everything really well.
I actually think this duo lane that 5M's have picked up is really, really smart into Food Drive for Globe. Food Drive for Globe are a team who really like to play through duo lane and try and dominate there. And if this Ullr is going there with the Aphrodite, that sort of prevents that. The Afro link past level 1, they're very, very strong and lane dominant. It makes it difficult for Tegvir and Happen to affect the game like they want to.
And we're kind of flying through P's and B's.
Yeah, they know what they want.
They do know what they want. There's a lot of flex potential so far with Food Drive for Globe, but usually you see Hades in solo, you see Chalk in solo.
I feel like Cherio's been the one who plays Hades the most, too.
That is his most played god, and in the last tournament, he played it 5 out of the 6 games or something like that. This is a very efficient draft, but I'm a little worried where Food Drive for Globe is putting this Hades. Is this Hades mid? Is Globe taking the Hades mid?
I don't think so. I think this is probably going to be a Hades in solo.
Hades support, though.
Is it?
It's got to be Hades support.
Yeah, and I like the combination of Hades and Morrigan. I think Hades is a god who is extremely, extremely strong while his ult is up. Obviously got that buff in Smite 2, and Morrigan wants to transform into a character with a very, very strong ult and a blink if she can.
But this isn't Hades solo. This is going to be like a tank Hades support. I don't know if there's as much efficiency there.
Is there any world in which this is Morrigan support, by the way? I've seen a bit of her played there with the
It's
aspect.
Happen, though. It's Happen.
Yeah?
I don't think Happen will play something like Morgan. He likes his high engage. You said he likes his pressure. I guess, to be fair, Morgan does have a lot of pressure. It is
He
something
almost
that
talked
could
himself
be
into
played.
it.
It could be played.
I've convinced myself. I think this is Morrigan support, and I think I've seen it a lot in EU rank. Genetics been pioneering it, in particular. Lifebinder, Morrigan, very good pressure in that lane, and it might help them pressure out this Ullr and Afro if they do decide to put it there.
And I just want to shout out Raw. I love this character so much. I mean, I talked about Aspect. I said I'm so excited. Raw is such a cool character now with this Aspect. I'm excited to see him played in solo lane because I think it's by far his best role. I think he's the best solo laner by a wide margin with that Aspect. My only worry, though, is if he plays it into a matchup where you can gank him, where is that Hades solo? I think that's one of the few matchups that you can actually handle Raw. If this is a Chalk solo, I think they're going to run him over in that lane.
Well, we've got the picks, we've got the players ready, so now let's jump over to our casters to start off game number 1.
Thank you, Gore, and thank you, Desk. And I hate to admit it, but honestly, Bobby and Hazer, they're right on it. I don't think they could be any smarter or more on point with their talking points. But at the same time, a lot of surprises in that draft.
I mean, I think so, but first of all, we do have to give credit to the desk because they did predict number 1, the fact that sustain was going to be so highly prioritized. I mean, we got Afro, we got Raw, Chalk, Hades. Like, there's a lot of self-sustain and a lot of aspects, which Bobby also touched on. I mean, Food Drive for Globe, I believe they have 4 out of 5 gods that could be played a completely different way, which 5M's has to consider. Like, right now, they're like, wait, are we going to have to deal with, is the Morgan going invis, or is she going to be able to teleport to her clone?
Right.
Are we going to see Loki stealthing his squad, or is he just going to, keep it to himself and keep the debuff? Personally, I think the Loki one, not so much, but the Morgan, I truly think you could go either way.
I think the big thing would be, as you're looking through the picks and bans, it's important to note at home that you don't see the aspects in picks and bans. You don't see the aspects till you get into game. So you're not going to know until you get in. And speaking of getting in game, we do have a remix. It'll be just a minute before we get into game. We'll have that for you soon. But I think that extra added layer, because you don't just have flex picks now, you have flex options throughout the draft.
And the other thing that I got to shout the devs for is, Raw ult is not always easy to land, right? Whenever you just send it flying, you miss, you kind of get flamed by your team, and you have to, you just come back, build some cooldown, try again next time. But the aspect actually does let you change your fire rate, right? You can fire and then turn. You can actually match where you would like to go. So it does make it a lot easier if you want to get value from that heal that you're giving to your squad, or you just want to keep someone sustained in the fight. You can ult someone who's diving the backline, hit them and do damage while also healing your squad. It just becomes so much easier to try and play this pickup. So Rob was already feeling good, but now I think he's feeling a little bit better.
We had the side lanes mentioned during the desk as well, so I want to bring attention to the jungle overall. One of the biggest changes on this patch for Vegas is the jungle is tankier, there's more to it, the pathing is different, so jungles are going to be the most important member if they weren't already, and just making sure the map feels great. In our jungle matchup, we've got Thor versus Loki, but more importantly to me, the experience levels. How do you think that plays in?
Well, I want to bring up the conversation that because there's so much extra jungle farm, we open up the ability for mid laners to start stealing it, right?
True.
As a mid laner myself, I'm already leeching off jungle as much as possible.
Yeah,
I'm trying.
You did that yesterday when we were practicing. You were a big farm leech.
And I hit level 20 first.
You did.
And
I'll give you that.
And that's how you carry games. NEQ is someone who already likes to sap a little bit of farm if he can. Right now, there's just so much more available. You have so much more to say, like, let's try and play through mid, right? Let's just sit back. You're going to get the backhand. You're going to get the free wards, things like that. And then you can use that pressure wherever you want. That's one of the things I love most about mid lane in SMITE 2 is you can be a pseudo jungler. You have time to clear out, dip over. If you get a kill, great. If you don't, go back to base, teleport to lane. Those lane teleporters are also so impactful for someone who's going to just sap up as much farm as possible.
And one of the people in this matchup is the person who got us talking about how important those side teleporters were for jungles in the first place in Scream. That was one of the people where we were talking about an early version of Hasar's Wings where it acted kind of like a pseudo sprint from SMITE 1 and the differences it made on how fast you could farm and move around the map. And that's been Scream's MO. And in the last tournament, he added even more carry potential on top of that.
I mean, we can't not mention Cherry as well, though. Like, he has been, I think Solo has been such an impactful addition because you can teleport over, you can absolutely wreck the duo lane, and then you can go back and you haven't missed a wave, right?
Right.
And the solo laners that are still stuck in that old mindset of, I clear wave, I go blue, I do it again. You're going to get outpaced, and your team is going to hurt for it. But we have so much experience here on the table. I want to mention Food Drive for Globe, in my opinion, despite the fact that Mike hyped up how they adapt quickly and they can prepare for drafts and things of that nature, Food Drive for Globe, in my opinion, is the team that has improved the most since I've watched them throughout the entirety of the Founders Series, and they adapt to patches quickly. I mean, we have not seen competitive play on this patch just yet, and I think Food Drive for Globe, they're the type of team that knows the ins and outs almost immediately.
They do, and we heard them talk about how they grind the game together, how they play nonstop. They're friends just outside of the game. They played in every amateur tournament they could find, whether it was SMITE Prime or otherwise. They played every scrim they could possibly get from, again, those tournaments even before the Founders Series. And on top of that, go back to how close the original Shabalba Storm got to Worlds. They were just right there on the cusp of tasting it, and that adds even more to what they could possibly want here. And I feel like it will make a big difference between the adaptations and just helping keep their nerves in check.
I mean, you guys saw the predictions, you guys saw the chips that everyone threw in, and I was the sole believer in Food Drive for Globe here, just because, again, I think that they have that adaptation, but there's one thing that you have to bring up, and it's that tenure that Hazer was talking about on the desk. 5M's are a team that have been here and played in front of a crowd so many times, right? This is nothing new for them. They've been on main stage, they've had the lights in their eyes, and they perform every single time. I wonder if Food Drive for Globe is ready for that, right? Do they have that level of, you know, we're not playing in our rooms anymore, we're not playing on LAN over at the studio. We're in front of hundreds of people cheering our name, or booing. They might, I'm not sure.
True.
I don't know.
That's always an option. Hopefully not the one that you run into. Right. But there's a question, too, of how can they win over the crowd? How can they, if they don't, how can they adjust? But all of those answers lie in game, and we're ready. Let's start off the Founders Series Championship and get in game. Number 1, Food Drive for Globe versus Team Name, but with 5M's.
Is there anything surprising us? We did see the possibility of the Hades support that immediately swapped on the desk. They said, you know what happens, taking the Morgan into support. We do see the double aspect, though. It's Globe on the chalk mid and has decided to go for the aspect, which changes that rain. No longer going to be healing you. The chalk rain does damage, which on one hand, you lose a bit of your sustain, but things like Bluestone, things like Heartseeker, things like Shield of the Phoenix, now proc on 4 abilities for chalk, which can be insane.
3 blinks over on the side of Food Drive for Globe as well, and the Phantom Shell at that. You know, honestly, less jungle starters than I expected on both sides. I expected we were already going to be seeing 4 per team potentially, but a little bit less.
No, I think the patch, the change to the jungle starters that makes it much more difficult for you to clear lane minions if you do pick up that jungle starter, kind of phase that out, at least for mid lane. Duo, you can definitely get away with it, right? And that's why we see Cyclone and Tech you're going to, because, as Des mentioned again, those side camps are very, very crucial. Notably, the Bologna aspect, I believe, is one you take every single time. It's just net better. We're not talking about, you know, play styles. This is just what you want to go for.
Axe damage already. Team Name with 5M's were not afraid to establish themselves in this mid lane at the start. They're taking it unique and it's working out. An answer on the left, an invade coming out from Food Drive for Glow. We were looking for exciting new starts. We're already seeing some.
Yeah, this is intense. I mean, Cyclone is off to just split mid farm with Benny. We do have Scream and Mike over in left lane, probably going to be attached to each other once that level 2 comes around. Don't quite have the kiss just yet. But that has done a damper on their plans, right? I mean, Cyclone is just trying to get as much farm as possible. You're letting Tegbeer solo farm in duo for the time being. If you get a kill onto Globe, great. But let's be honest, you're not first blood in a Chalk with Blink with an axe and a Celestial
No,
Beam.
you're not.
It's just not going to happen. And especially because Globe has so much self-sustain, you can go back to base and teleport. That's all the sustain you need early on.
What a start. I can't believe we see so many unique things. The Morgan support will be something that I think everyone who puts on the stream throughout the beginning of the stream today, the first game, they're all going to freak out at the Morgan support. But there's so much to it. And Cyclone Spin, I think, on this Ullr, we heard the players talking before today, and Ullr was on the top of all their lists of characters they really wanted to get in their hands. And the fact that Cyclone Spin can run it first, big to watch. BennyQ takes some damage. Look who's right around the side. Will they go in? Not yet.
Not quite. You can see Valo was nearby. Loki, 2 buffs, a blink, a lot of damage, but not stuff that you want to scrap with, especially because there's so much healing from BennyQ. Notably, again, we talked about the aspect, not going to be picked up this time for Benny. He's playing mid. It does nerf your damage a little bit. More sustain, you lose that extra scaling on your ult. Not really something BennyQ likes. If you guys have been watching the BennyQ Raw for a while, he wants those one-shots. He wants the kill. And that aspect is not what you're looking for in mid lane.
That's been big for BennyQ in general throughout the Founder Series, but same thing for Globe. I've thought of Globe as somebody who's looked for those big-time impact ultimates. Chalk, I mean, do you bring that same thing in the mid lane the later we get?
Listen, I have been one of the biggest jungle haters. Chalk mid is not the jungle. It's much different, right? You could just go full damage if you so choose, blink in, you can charge up Stormcall, then blink in because of the new addition of the sort of combat blink. And just absolutely own the backline. I mean, I don't hate it at all, and I hope.
Globe, the slam hits, but not enough damage on. I'm sure Food Drive for Globe, they're feeling every first engagement like that. If there's one thing you don't want, being that team with the nerves, who's new to this experience, you don't want to go down first blood.
No, absolutely not. I'm looking at the late game team fight potential already, because it does seem like Food Drive for Globe has drafted that way, right? When you have a Loki, you're not trying to fight early. When you have the Morgan support, you have the option to steal away things like the Thor ult, maybe 2 Hades ults, maybe even going into Mike, giving that extra immunity could be the call. Regardless, they're not that strong right now. They're just trying to confirm as much farm as possible, whereas Scream and Cyclone, they're stepping forward, right? They want engagements whenever they can find them. Hasn't seen the scrapping happen just yet, but if we do see the engagement, I'm thinking it's going to be off the back of 5M's.
We heard Happen mention that these two teams for a while were basically scrim partners. At the beginning of the Founder Series, you could not turn on 5M stream without seeing them scrimming. Purple buff invade, damage onto Valo, same for Cyclone Spin. The ult from Valo to get away. Got a bit nervous by the purple, but keeps himself safe.
Still going for the invade though is Happen. Does have to teleport out, try and steal it and leave. Go well. Cyclone Spin able to pick that one up, no problem. Man, Cyclone Spin on Ullr connected to Mike on Afro. Think about the late game damage. I mean, the survivability as well. That's going to be disgusting if you're not able to deal with it. I do see options here. Again, Valo, you can go double Loki. You have the Hades ultimate. Those are all great ways to get out that ultimate. But it's all about positioning as well. Can you get there even?
Globe still face tanking all that damage. That's going to be a key aspect of killing the Chalk as well. He kind of gets through that early game way easier just because he has such a harder time dying.
Yep, I mean, just throw the axe, drop the rate, and clear the wave effortlessly. Like, he's going to take some damage here. We got to scrap.
Split, PBM will get caught in the Wild Hunt, rooted too. The ult's committed. A dash in from Tegbeer. A shell out. Is that enough to keep Mike safe? It is. Maybe even a turnaround. If Valo gets here in time, but no, a pivot for the speed. No over-engage.
Wow.
PBM sitting pretty low still.
I mean, I'm surprised. If I'm Valo, I'm probably trying to go for that one. Something else to note, we didn't really see it there, but PBM does have the option. When you use that Undying Love, you can actually, in SMITE 2, choose to teleport to the person you're linked to. Not much of a teleport, more of like a zoom. You just kind of go over there. Yeah. Regardless, an extra level of safety for Afro. Not very mobile, but when you're attached to an Ullr with a leap, you can just follow Cyclone Spin out. Didn't see it there, but if Valo comes in, if we see the assassinate to the backline, if we see a beautiful Pillars of Agony here from Karmic, you can just zoom yourself out of there, no problem.
5 minutes of cross, and still no first blood. We saw that close one for Valo. Now an invade out from the Loki. Feeling okay to get to the jungle, but ever aware his screams. Valo we chased away. Are you surprised that there's no Sunders? Because I keep checking out the relics, and I'm still surprised not to see one.
I mean, I was gonna touch on the no Sunders, and I saw Cherry goes Pendulum Blade first item, and he's just using the active for more hammers, right? You're up against the Hades, so you're not gonna outclear. That's a pipe. You're never gonna be able to outclear. But just going for the extra cooldown resets on the first item. Cherry is such a theory crafter at the end of the day. This could be the new meta strat, or it could just be something he's trying out. I doubt it, considering how much we're playing for here.
I was going to say,
But
yeah.
I want to see how I mean, this is essentially a full damage Thor at the moment. You expect hybrid from Solo, but that's not
Good start so far for Food Drive for Globe if you're looking at them from that underdog aspect, not being afraid to play in the jungle. Cherry runs in, the Valor damage on, the ult out, but Cherry will get away in plenty of time. That Anvil done.
And I was looking to see if Globe had any sort of option there. A step forward. This is something I've seen a lot in the rank queues, actually. First item Kins. Stat-wise, not a bad pick, especially for someone like Scream on the Bologna. Like, it's just a great option to try and shred through some of these tankier targets, but the stats that come with Kins are going to help you clear farm just fine. No one wants to box Bologna really ever if you can help it, right? Especially ADCs, the disarm can be so impactful. But now that Scream has taken his ass, he can give so much healing to his team, he can give block stacks to his team. It really does make your team fight pretty incredible. I like the chase down potential here as well.
Cyclone gets decent damage onto Tegvir, will force that Cern back. A lot of movement to the left-hand side, but still no full commits from either team. They're really taking their time at this start. Nobody wants to be the one to overstep and make that first mistake. But PBM and Scream go to the mid lane, take the engage. A blink will be forced out.
Great play there by Globe, just to make sure the silence comes through. Save your jungler. Valo has been a pillar of this team. Whenever they are successful, it's usually off the back of some great late game picks from things like this Loki. Valo getting his hands on it here. Definitely not a bad look. Queen Naga has spawned in. You can see 5M's on it immediately. Let's see if it has any potential, because guess what? Food Drive's on gold.
An ambitious call, but a smart one of reading the map, but then Food Drive back off. But that Queen Naga still grabbed up, and it seems like 5M's will have that unless Globe can get there in time to get the steal away. It'll be close. Cyclone in trouble would happen right there. Queen Naga goes to 5M's, a chalk transformation. Will that be enough to set anything up? Just more poke on PBM, and once again, remember Food Drive is the one forced away on their own gank.
Wow, the beads there. I don't think that was necessary from Tegvir. Maybe feared that Mike was on the way, or they had a gank coming in on the top side. Not going to be the call, but at the very least, you pull the beads off of Tegvir on an aggressive play here from Food Drive for Globe. Cyclone Spin and Mike, they're a lethal combo. The Uller and the Afro, they don't have much to fear when they have that Undying Love available, especially when Cyclone's hitting axes. I don't know if you've been counting, but
they've been on point.
I've seen 3 for 3 so far, and a Relic pull. Not a bad start for the duo lane at 5M's.
I feel like that's the thing you need to. Hit some axes, feel yourself out in the land, remember who you are for sure, and how many times, again, the experience of 5M's really shows through in moments like that, getting themselves back onto this land setting and not missed yet. Ult out as the fight for the totem begins, and this one goes to Food Drive for Globe.
I'm glad that we're getting the claps for totem.
I was just thinking it, yep, they were right on cue.
Yeah, make sure you keep that up for sure. No action so far as kills, but we will be coming in when that totem goes down. And shouts out to Karmic, dropping the ult just to make sure it happens. I'm still keeping my eyes glued to Cherry's build, because you can see Gemma Focus, the only item picked up for Carmen. He built that like 5 minutes ago. He's holding about 3K in hand. No fear in the world. If anything, he's rotating. Okay, I was going to say, are we going to mid with 3K? Probably not. Head on back to base, get yourself a full item. Tons of options here, but what I've seen a ton of is exactly that. Polynomicon, things like the stealth helmet, just being able to go to the backline, invis and one-shot someone, are still super impactful on picks like Hades.
One thing I want to mention too, Food Drive for Globe, we've talked about them as a team that has been so consistent 90% of the time.
Right.
They've had this kind of 10% tendency to implode during games. But one thing I feel like we haven't seen is, for a while, when they went up against teams like 5M's, they would fall behind and farm for at least a little bit. Not right now, but a sneaky Gold Fury hold, and no one's nearby to make any contest happen. Just caught asleep at the wheel, and the first Gold Fury goes. The team name with 5M's.
Man, I mean, if Food Drive for Globe had the farm lead, they had the positioning, they just didn't have the ward coverage, I'm guessing, because they show up and they were not in time to try and contest that Gold Fury. Sure, you expend Benny-Q's ultimate, but we all know Raul doesn't have that big of a cooldown. Should be coming back up, no problem. I gotta see some aggression for Food Drive for Globe here. I already mentioned their late game. I like it. It's not, you know, the end of the world if we get there, but it still has a good bit of damage. Oh, we see a fight.
Scream in trouble, getting damage on, but has backup. This might be that first blood. Looks for it with Eagles Rally and gets it. First blood to Scream and 5M's. Can they find any more? You've got the Hades still in. The Agony out. They'll take one back. Karmic not letting it go.
Not a bad play by Carver. We're still going in here. BennyQ taking some damage, and there it is. Fallow picks up the third kill of the fight.
Exactly what you want if you are food drive for Globe. They punch, you give them 2 jabs right back, and they are in this game, and maybe that might wake them up on the aggressiveness too.
I mean, I'm not sure if anyone told Happen that Karmic is not building tanky, right? I saw him go to the backline as the Morgan, turn into this Hades, and then immediately just get shredded by Scream. That Kins was cutting through the HP. Then Karmic showed up and said, I'll do it myself, right? I'm the real Hades, I'm level 14. Goes a little bit different. Another Warhorn go in the way of food drive for Globe.
That was a heck of a first blood, so much so. I think, I think seeing a first blood again might be pretty cool to see how things actually went down. Take us to the replay.
I mean, you can sell, again, this is an aggressive play by Happen. He thinks he has the damage, immediately gets shredded because of that heal from BennyQ. Tries to bail out, and the shield vast confirms it, but Food Drive did not let it slide. When I saw this ult from Cherry, I thought we were in a bit of trouble, but turns out Karmic has never cared about the Anvil of Dawn, and he just goes in and gets the job done.
Well, remember at the Georgia LAN how we saw Karmic play. No fear, always looking for a flank, always looking for an opportunity, and it played to Karmic's strengths in a team fight as well. Happen in some trouble, needs some backup, can't get away, and will not. PBM picks up the kill. Support on support, violence to start our day.
And I cannot stress enough, if you are playing the Morgan with this aspect, you have to be so mindful of when you're using your clone, when you're using that, you have to send it out to teleport to it later on. Cherry just dunking and gets extra damage. Globe's here, does he have a steal attempt? The rain could take it down, does not.
No, close. I thought maybe that damage rain, a newer ability using the aspect to have the rain that does damage, kind of tough to read on an objective like that.
Yeah, it's not a lot of tick damage, but it'll start to add up. You'll get very annoyed when you're inside of it. At least a consolation prize here for the Chaos team picking up the Queen Naga. They're able to get those minions. Notably though, not a buff that just sort of sticks on you anymore. Now it's actually a consumable that you can drop when you choose. My favorite use, when you're up against someone like Uller. You're in a 1v1, they think they can axe you. Guess what? I just dropped down these soldiers that are gonna eat the axe, and now I win this fight for free. You have no way to stun, you have no way to hit your combo. So yeah, that's something that we could see come into play. Has not been too often. I mean, Cyclone's been pretty much confined over towards duo lane for the time being. But remember, 5M's pulled gold. They have the timer, they can go in whenever they so please.
Backup is here in the form of PBM for Cyclone Spin, followed by the Hades ult, but Happen just can't get enough to work. But they do secure that purple buff. That was the goal for Food Drive for Globe. So they're continuing to just keep up in map presence. This is a key for a team like Food Drive. You can't get out-rotated. You can't play nervous. You've got to play like you know how.
Karmic is level 17, man. We are 13 minutes into the game. That's a ridiculous amount of farm. I mean, we were talking about these side camps. Hades just one-shots them, right?
We haven't seen Cherry over there much.
Yeah, I mean, because you're Bluestone Thor. You can't clear as quickly. Hades just groups everything up, gets extra damage by the blighted minions, and one-shots everything. Cherry has to use a fair bit of damage to get that same level of presence. I can't wait to see Karmic rotate over. I want to see Karmic teleport to duo lane, because we already saw Cyclone beats get pulled in that last engagement. That was the goal. 100 seconds, no CC immunity. Mike is going to have to be on point to keep him alive, but here's that goal.
Can't lose another gold for free. You've got to make a contest. If you are Food Drive for Globe, they're aware, they show face, there's damage on to Globe already. Forced to use that ult, a bit of a missed shot from Scream. Can he find his way back to Globe? It's getting messy already, and Globe is reaping the rewards to get safe, but the same can't be said for Happen. Scream locks it down.
Looks like Cherry just playing zone duty, making sure Karmic cannot get in for free. Valo, do you even have a steal attempt here? It looks like Karmic wants to go for it, but he's not looking healthy. You might have to give this one up.
Down to half health, so if you gotta go, you gotta go soon. 5M's know how to blow you up, and they'll take an objective too. Karmic thought about it, but maybe forgot who was standing in that Gold Fury pit.
And that's what I'm talking about. Cyclone doesn't miss the axes. That much we know. You gotta respect when he has one locked and loaded. It's gonna be landing. But man, a level 17 Hades game to the backline would have been fantastic. You just gotta look at your map position. You have to see your team is not in place to try and defend that. 5M's, if nothing else, are on point with the Gold Furies. The left side of the map belongs to them.
And the first significant gold lead taking 15 minutes to show up and happening at the same time as kills is wild.
Now they got 15 again.
5M's at least
they're going
posturing over. There's no way we're doing this in the face of
Benny
Food
has
Drive.
ult.
They're gonna make the risk. They're gonna pull the fire. Can they make a play? Can Food Drive get there in time?
PBM
show up. They're close. Now a 1v1 to the side. That's gonna slow Valo down at any chance of helping out. He had to ult away, and they're still on fire.
Okay, well, they've used the Ross knife. Again, Mike still does have the bomb. He's not going to be able to mistime this unless he gets some CC, and finally, it's getting low, but they're not committing.
The blink into the back line, looking for something, followed up with a storm call, so damage on the 5M's. They get off the fire giant, but Cherry lands down, and Benny Q follows up. This is their fire, they want it. Food Drive trying to fight back at anything they can, but Cyclone starts to clean up. 4 dead for Food Drive. 5M's
They're staying
at
on
the
this?
fire, but
They're
they're
maniacs.
low. Valo not afraid to take this fight. He's been in this spot before, looking for the first one. Gets Scream and backs them up with some help from the environment.
They are absolute maniacs for staying on. That Valo has blink. He knows he can close gap, but do you want to dive spinner under the tower? I don't think so. Not a bad play from 5M's until they stayed on Fire Giant. You've got sustain, but not enough to take him up. It's only 16 minutes in now, and he spawned about a minute ago. You got to keep that in mind. You don't have the health bars, you don't have the damage to be able to tank that up. I need to see more from this Morgan pick, though. Happen has been consistently caught out. You need to be on point with dropping your clone, a bead, something to help Happen position, because he's been the first target every single time.
Every single time. So much to break down in this fire, but I think the thing that shocked me the most was the persistence from 5M's to not let it go.
Yeah, I mean, Karmic did a bunch of damage here. You could tell when he came in, he thought he was going to be getting like 3 kills. Beautiful dunk as well from Cherry. You can see in the bottom left, though, we can see another Fire Giant attempt, but we're just sort of feeling things out here.
I'll never trust 5M's again when we see them around it, though. Daring and looking for damage. Might even find a pick on to Happen, who almost got caught out again. Cherry takes to the sky. Will there be a landing? Yeah, there will. Won't find a home, gets the stun, and has to back right out.
There's a Scepter Dominion just closing off that aspect. You can see Fire Giant still getting low. 5M is going for it, and they got it.
PBM gets it. Food Drive was close, but not close enough. And Karmic has nowhere to go. Cyclone Spin cleans
He's
up.
alive.
But look at the answer back. Karmic didn't die. Cyclone's still trying to throw, though, and makes it happen, and gets the triple kill.
Cyclone Spin 5-0-5. He can do it all himself. Leap forward. You can find Happen here. He's going to have to use the ultimate to get out. No way. You just trust. You have the movement, blink, dash, so much, my goodness. And I think Cyclone can still catch him.
Not letting him go, hitting everything on the way through. That stun and he'd already be dead, but he gets it anyway. 4 all go to Cyclone Spin, and it's a deicide.
Delayed quadra kill for Cyclone Spin. Fire Giant to 5M's on 3. My goodness, man, how this game, I'm not going to say has turned, it's just heated up, right? It was kind of slow. We didn't see much action until about 10, 12 minutes. But now it's all 5M's all the time. Cherry is going to be able to split push. He's got his ult coming up soon. He's got envelopes on to get out. He's in no danger. But if you're Food Drive for Globe, you got to figure out where your defense lies. Do you sit underneath the Phoenix and just try and defend? Do you go to tier 2, or do you look into the Stealth Grass, the new addition to SMITE 2, and try and set up an ambush? I don't hate any of them, but you cannot sit back because 5M's will take everything you own if you let them.
Well, we were talking about Karmic earlier being a few levels up. That's evened up. Cyclone Spin just hit level 20 on this Uller, and Tegveer's at level 16.
He's also bottom damage in the game, barring Mike.
Gold Fury pulled. Food Drive, this is what you're talking about. Do you make plays? No, it looks like they're going to concede it. Now, this is something that I remember 5M's doing to Food Drive for Globe during the regular tournament of the Founder Series. They put them in this position where if you could not make a play, they would dare you, where they kind of forced your hand at, if you choose to do nothing, we'll take everything.
Can I just say that it took me a while to really grasp Mike's positioning there, that Scepter of Dominion. I thought it was more so just like the zone tool. He completely locked down that Fire Giant entrance. No one could contest. That was the Aphrodite.
They could only take the long way.
Right, they have to take the long haul, and that's when, if you do go the whole way around, you're going to set up a quadra kill for Cyclone Spin. So well played. I wouldn't doubt that that was planned out by Mike and Cyclone probably a week ago, right?
Yeah.
Like if we do go for a Fire Giant, I can get Scepter, I can lock it off. They funnel in this way, you hit some damage, we clean it up. It's like just shooting quail, right? Flying above us. It's effortless.
The 3 gold dots at the top of your screen that belong to 5M's, those are Gold Furies. Now that the third one's dead, Ancient Fury will start spawning. They might take that, but they might take kills too. Up to the sky goes Cherry. Cyclone Spin already killed Globe.
Got a little bit of action here. Enveloped on, off the mark, but the wall into Happen. I don't think he can ult in time.
Can they find Happen again? There's the ult out. Will he get away in time? No, a double kill for Cyclone Spin. 5M's just walk at you, and there's nothing Food Drive have been able to do about it. Karmic looking to repeat with the Helmet Darkness play, but he gets answered quick and shut down. That's already 3 dead, almost 4 dead for Food Drive.
Fire Giant already fallen off. They don't need it. They're going into the Titan Room Mountain. They want game 1.
21 minutes. Can you make that happen? Food Drive, can you defend it with 2? All these questions. Seems like 5M's have got the answer. 1 game down. Will they take a pick on the way out? That's gonna kill it.
They're playing
They
their
will.
food.
Valo's gone. They do indeed take 1. That's how you start a LAN if you're rooting for team with 5M's.
8-0-7 for Cyclone Spin. Uller was not a sleeper pick by any means. We talked about this on the desk. We talked about before the tournament began. Uller is going to be a pick that everyone wants to get their hands on, and it cannot go back to Cyclone Spin, especially when he's attached to Mike on Afro. Those two
That was
things
crazy.
are just, they just spell disaster.
Did they spell disaster? I mean, we saw the whole documentary of the problems that can come your way if you allow that to happen.
Yep.
And you called it from the very beginning. You said, you know, I'm really noticing how Cyclone Spin's hitting these axes. They're on point.
Yep.
And it showed the entire game, not just with the axes, but everything. It was aimbot out there.
And again, you have to consider the fact that Cyclone's been here before. He doesn't have
Right.
to be like, oh boy, do I have to warm up my axes? No, he knows.
Yeah.
He shows up and he's like, yeah, that's gonna hit. I saw him miss one. The whole game I saw him miss one. And that is just a terrible feeling to be Food Drive for Globe, knowing that every time he changes stances, you're getting smacked with 900 damage guaranteed.
And now, I think that one of the toughest things for Food Drive for Globe is you come into this LAN, you have all the confidence in the world. We heard them say it. They always think they'll win no matter the circumstance.
Right.
But you got smacked pretty hard. You got to figure out a way to come back from that.
And that's the thing as well. Picks and bans are going to be a big topic of conversation. I like the idea behind Morgan support. I didn't love the execution.
Yeah.
Happen is such a playmaker. When he's on something that can get in, get out, be safe, peel for the team. The Morgan wasn't even getting meaningful ults off. So
No.
at that point, we got to change up the drawing board here. I'm not ready to call a 5M sweep. Food Drive for Globe, they know how to adapt. They know how to create a strategy. But we got to change things up.
You have to, and like you said, Happen, that's been their playmaker. That's what to look for in picks and bans. Before we get there, we got one stop to make. We'll be right back after some short messages with more from the Founders Series Championship.
I don't wanna be just another one of your notes. No, I don't wanna be just another one of your thoughts. Yeah, I would die a happy death if I I've been used by the useless. My whole body's covered in bruises. Consumed by the clueless. So full of lies and excuses. I've let you take enough from me. I'm jumping ship to watch you sink. When you look back and I'm still standing. Remember every time you tap me. It makes me stronger than before. When you tap me, it fuels the fire even more. So give me all you got. I can't wait to watch you rock. If there's one thing you should learn about me, don't ever doubt me. Now you're gone with no traces. You might as well have been faceless. Exposed all your weakness. I'm getting back to the basics. The smoke is clear, I'm seeing red. I won't stop fighting till I'm dead. When you look back and I'm still standing. Remember every time you tap me. It makes me stronger than before. When you tap me, it fuels the fire even more. So give me all you got. I can't wait to watch you rock. If there's one thing you should learn about me, don't ever doubt me. Now you're stuck treading water.
Welcome back, everyone, here into the SMITE 2 Founders Series in the HyperX Arena, Las Vegas. My name is Gormizer. Again, welcome you back to the desk up front. Of course, if you're in the venue, you're hearing a selected, I guess, variety of music. But if you are watching on stream, you're going to be hearing some of our featured artists throughout the Founder Series Championship. We got Ko-Fi, we got Beartooth, we've got House of Protection. You were just listening to Doubt Me by Beartooth in the middle. A couple of, honestly, some bands you probably will recognize through SMITE's tenure. And so, of course, make sure that you give them all a listen. Make sure you check them out. If you hear a song you like, the title and the artist is being listed on the wait screen. So make sure that you go listen to them. And, of course, thank you to all of those featured artists, those three that we have right there, for all the wonderful music that we've been listening to while we get prepared, get back into it, and get ready for things like this one, which is going to eventually be game number 2. First, we got to talk about what happened in game 1. There were a couple of things that stood out to me. One that occurred kind of easily, which was Uller.
Rather easily.
Yeah, he was like Uller.
Cyclone
Wow.
Uller. Wow.
There's probably a much more in-depth breakdown you could have, but I think the result would be the same statement.
Yeah, he hit his buttons. They hit the enemy team. The enemy team died. I don't really know if there's much more to say. Did you see where he chased that Hades that happened, transformed into the Hades, dashed, ulted, dashed, blinked, and Cyclone's like, no problem. I'll just pop my 2. I'll chase you. I'll hit the 3 over the wall. I'll axe you again, and I'll take you down. It was absolutely incredible from Cyclone.
And you were even saying, like, well, actually, I guess I should go back, because I feel like there were points in the weekend we talked about the fact that, like, Aladdin, we expected, haha, yes, I'll be banned.
Yep.
But I feel like I heard Uller getting mentioned a few times, and I forgot about it going into that. That was a good reminder that that conversation had been going on. And I feel like, do you expect that to be a change that we go for, or do you think that you swap sides and try to get it for yourself?
I think if I'm playing from the side of Food Drive for Globe, I mean, this is a brand new patch. This is the first look we get at this brand new patch. This is the first time we'll see it. If I'm playing on the side of Food Drive for Globe, I'm getting Tekvir off of the CERN, and I'm getting him the Uller. Yes, I mean, Aphrodite was an issue. It helps Uller kind of get through that early laning phase. But you just toss away the Aphrodite as a ban, take this first pick the Uller, and you can kind of deal with whatever they pick. There's value elsewhere. I mean, Hades, Loki, they had good picks, or good games on the side of Karmic and the side of Valo. But, I mean, you said it the one time, just running him down. There were so many fights that Cyclone kind of saved his team and did just enough to either win it or kind of save them from that. I think this Uller is far too valuable. Yeah. Do I want to see them ban it? No, I want to see them pick it. Make 5M's ban it. It's so valuable as a play right now.
And there's something else, and admittedly in some of these you're going to see, I think, a lot of the back and forth. First off, I was kind of floored. It took a little bit to get that action. What was 10 minutes in before we did get that first blood? and then it was explosive. And admittedly, it was explosive for everyone until it wasn't, and then it was just 5M's.
And shouting back to what Paul said earlier, where this Boomba's pickups that we're seeing, we had the Boombas in ADC for both of them, and then the junglers, which was maybe a little bit lower than maybe we expected. But I mean, a lot of the gods in this game were just happy with farming. And I think the one role that you really needed to win was dual lane for the side of Globe. And they didn't win that. They had that transform at level 5 with Happen. They looked for that all-in. They were not able to get it. And then at that point, there's just really no threat onto Aphrodite. There's really no threat onto Ullr. I mean, yes, Karmic had this massive, massive lead over the Thor, but can you gank the Thor, really? No, you can't really make that play. I mean, Valo ulted him the one time, and Thor just ults out, and it's a trade.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, they just didn't manage to make things happen in the duo lane. I mean, I was right about where the Mori was going. It was going support. I'm not sure that Happen was right about Mori support in that game. It really didn't seem to do much for them. The ults just weren't impactful. The Afro was able to negate a lot of what the Morrigan did with good ults, with good Phantom Shells at the right time, with good spacing, and keep his carries alive and stop that all-in dive coming through.
One thing, and I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
But I was also caught off guard, and I think for a lot of this, like the healing they had, I kind of underestimated. Like going into it, like I saw Afro, I saw the Raw, and like there was maybe part of my brain that registered it, but then seeing it in action with the Bellona aspect, all of a sudden, it like kind of clicked, and I went, oh, right.
That's like the full-blown healer style where you have a healer, you have like a partial healer in the Raw, and then you also have another partial healer with that Bellona. And you saw it in the mid-game team fights. They opted to build into anti-heal, but when you build into anti-heal, you're foregoing other powerful items that don't allow you to actually threaten that lethality that you have against the enemy team. So, yeah, you bought that anti-heal. Does it matter? No, you still can't kill anyone other than Karmic's one rotation. It's the strength of Aphrodite, and this is even with Raw going the Necronomicon, decreasing your protections. He was still able to live in a lot of those fights. I don't think it should be a worry again. I think you just get rid of the Aphrodite. You don't let Mike have that again, and you pick away the Ullr, take first pick, and I think it's perfect.
Game 1 was the treat, so why not have another? Game 2, picks and bans are going to be coming at you here. And now, Food Drive for Globe. Other side of the map, right? That's very important. Say so much, I think, that can change here because, one, we kind of know, or at least I've gotten used to the fact that it feels like this Aladdin's going to be on the other side, but you love the Aphrodite ban up front.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what I want to see because now this leaves open. You're forcing the enemy to side Aladdin, or to ban Aladdin. I think it's perfect. You get to ban away this Aphrodite. You get now another throwaway, and then it's on to 5M's to decide how they want these P's and B's to play out. They opt for the Ullr ban. It just allows Food Drive to now just get this Hades for free, and there's no super valuable pick that 5M's is getting, except Geb.
The Geb comes through. First time we're seeing Geb in SMITE 2 competitive. He's a new god coming into SMITE 2. And I imagine this one's going to be going to BBM. And they opt to pick up the Thor again. They just played this Thor in solo into the Hades in the previous game. So you have to imagine that's going to be a run back there.
And maybe just comfort as well, right? Like you just had a really good pick. This is the other one. I was going to mention Geb was banned in place of the Aphrodite, I guess we'll say. And then the Zeus was banned in place of where that Ullr is in game 1. So both of them coming through. How do you feel about the Zeus? Is he worthy of the ban and is he worthy of this pick?
I think it's just the hyper farming potential that a Zeus has. It just allows him to. There's no mid laner that can really match him if he goes for like a Boombas for clear or if he goes for a conduit for actual lane clear. I like this comp drafted by Food Drive for Globe so far. Again,
what is happening?
Hazer. Where are we going with Chalk?
Why are we going with Chalk
Hades
again?
every game.
Finally,
Morgan every game.
Morgan again. Are they?
Where's Techbeer? Techbeer Zeus? Okay.
Okay, yeah, so we're going Morgan mid, support again? Mori support again, and Hades, and they're pairing it with a Loki once more. The only switch out is the Zeus for the CERN in a game that they got absolutely blown out in.
The 5M side is switching up their comp a lot. Everything is changing except that Thor. And they're no longer, playing for that really strong mid game where they have their healing. They have 5 points in, Afro 3, 5 points in Raw 3. The 5M's comp is now a scaling comp. When you look at Food Drive for Globe, are they going to be able to steamroll this 5M comp? It's such a safe comp. Are you killing Jingwei? Are you killing Thor? Are you killing Geb? There's so much safety on the side of 5M's. There's a lot of pressure on Food Drive for Globe to not... I mean, you don't have to get kills. You could play through objectives, but you have to kind of snowball this game. You're not matching that late.
It gives us a look into what Food Drive really believe, though, and you have to say that their prep going into this tournament must be that this comp, that this idea that they have of playing the Hades with the Morrigan support pairing that with the Loki in the jungle, they believe this is strong. They've done their prep. They had one bad game, and they're not letting that throw off their drafts.
And I also think we have to shout out this chalk mid aspect is very unique. It switches him from being, you know, more of like a hybrid, a little bit of a bruisery character. He builds full damage. It's going to be a lot easier to play this pick into a non-Aphrodite. Aphrodite just nullifies everything you want to do as chalk. So there is that option for, you know, you go and you silence the Geb. He's not able to make those plays. I like it a little bit more into 5M's comp this game, though.
Well, we brought a lot of variety with the aspects. The question is, how many of them are getting locked in? Teams have changed. The sides have swapped. The only way to find out what's happened is to go down to our casters.
Thank you once again, Desk, and I gotta say, that picks and bans, that we had quite the reactions there. I think we both kind of threw our hands back. We were on the Zeus ADC, but another Morgan in the support role? It's a little while, but getting in the game too, it has to work here.
I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, I gotta go back to what Hazer said. The fact that Food Drive for Globe clearly believes that this composition has its merits, right? The Afro and the Ula are now gone, so maybe that's what was the big thorn in their side. And they get to try to run it back again. Notably, Geb is actually in the solo lane this time around. Now that Rollout can now do 2 instances of damage, you can pretty much full clear away with Conduit Gem. I wouldn't be surprised if the Cherry goes to Proxy because of it. Forcing out the blink early there from Valo. A lot of damage coming from 5M's. You gotta be careful early on. I mean, you can go back to base, you can heal up, but if you're not grouped with your squad, you can get ambushed.
We know how Valo likes to play, so not having that blink now for the early game is definitely going to hurt. I'm looking across and talking about the plan aspect. We saw the Zeus ban in game 1. We did hear Food Drive say they haven't been able to scrim 5M's for about a month, obviously because they were playing. Maybe that Zeus was the missing piece. Is that enough?
They're waiting for the proxy.
Go through. Geb's committed to roll. Cherry knows as the blink.
Oh,
they didn't cut it off. The Hades could have gone through, but went for the chase.
I thought they were going to try and body block it. It would have been a great play. They knew Cherry can full clear with his rollout, but didn't end up going for it. Hey, successful invade on the other side for Food Drive for Globe. I love that they're still getting aggressive, though.
Yeah.
Because, again, the Desk highlighted, not a great game number 1. That doesn't mean you stop shooting.
That's true. Shooters shoot, and that's the thing for Food Drive. It's when they've won, a lot of times when they've won, even against teams where throughout the Founder Series, people said they were underdogs, it's because they've still played their game. They played ambitious picks like that. Karmic showed up on this Hades at the Georgia LAN, and nobody believed it in the first game, and ended up being one of the top picks.
Yeah, and Karmic had a huge lead last game. Again, I really do think Food Drive sat back and said, Uller and Afro were the problem. Give it to us one more time, and we're going to make it work. You got to trust your prep. It's one of those things where if you practice a composition like this for 3 weeks and figure out game 1, it doesn't work, you can't make something up on the fly. You just try and play the composition better. We do have to talk about another one of the elephants in the room. Gold Fury control from 5M's was ridiculous. They pulled it off.
First one was unmatched.
Unmatched, and they were behind, by the way. Like 5M's were behind in gold, and we're still the first ones to show up in gold. So I gotta see Food Drive for Globe put more presence over towards the duo. They've got the Morgan, they've got Zeus. It's an awkward composition, but you gotta try and put Mike and Cyclone out of their comfort zone.
You gotta try to do something. That's the big thing, because when we saw them do something, a lot of times it worked. Screams here for the early game to wall out to separate the Morgan. Blink forward. Tough to force anything out here. Nothing more than some poke. Matter of fact, a lot of poke onto PBM during that gank attempt.
And you can see their idea, right? Scream goes up, goes for the wall, but Happen had already sent the clone out and then teleported to it. That was my biggest gripe with this pick in game number 1, is it didn't seem to me like Happen was in the right mindset to just go, oh, I might die in the next couple seconds. I'm going to send the clone immediately so I can teleport and get the max distance away. It was more like in the middle of the fight, he's like, oh no, I'm out of position, I'm going to send it. And it doesn't cover that much ground. It's not very fast. It just kind of walks at its own pace. So you got to be thinking 2 steps ahead if you go this Morgan aspect.
And let's go back, too, to Founder Series during the tournament phases itself. Valo on this Loki, how many times did we see Valo make plays in Fire Giant, 1v3, 1v4, even 1v5 and make it work? And we started to see that in the last game, just kind of lacking on some backup for it. Another gank attempt from Scream, goes in, the blink is the answer. Karmic will be okay.
Not bad at all, getting the blink down, big cooldown, but at the very least, Karmic lives to see another day. I'm trying to think about how Cherry can really play against Pillars of Agony, because currently, he's just been out clearing because Geb is kind of...
Ooh, thank you. Almost dead! Dead! And traded! Globe just went for the chase under the tower. Benny went so low so quickly.
Man, I mean, Hecate has that ability to get out of trouble no problem when you open the gates and just teleport out, but he's got a lot of damage to back it up. Can be scary. Mike surely isn't a target here, just a purple buff invade once again, but here comes the dunk.
Didn't dunk on anybody. The Lightning Storm is the answer. Gets some on. You've got Valo here too, and they step back in. So Valo's got an opening for damage and has a lot on. He turned that corner, not without a Loki. Happen able to get the kill on the PBM. Cyclone spin low, but the detonate not there. Doesn't matter. Happen's not afraid to dive it. A double kill, but he will go down.
I mean, purple buff and a double kill, definitely not bad here for Food Drive for Globe. You're able to give that 2 to happen, which I guess is the worst case scenario, because you'd much rather have Tegbeer get those kills, but a much better night and day start for the Morgan here. Remember, Happen was the target for a lot of that. Valo tried to go into the invade, but getting caught out. I don't think he's in too much danger, even without Assassinate. Pretty easy to juke and open the gates that you know is coming. Just a very long wind-up time before that teleport comes through. But hey, this is what I called for, right? Food Drive
Happen
getting more aggressive through Happen, through duo lane, and near Gold Fury, and it all comes through their way.
See, I love when we're in sync like that. I just wrote down Happen Playmaker. I was going to give you the kudos. It's cool to give yourself the kudos, but I was here for you.
I'll take them anyways, you know, if you're still handing them out.
You're so smart.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
And driven. You can mention that too.
Yeah, great drive. And only 2 for now, though. We got to save the third. It's a long weekend. It's a long weekend.
You're absolutely right. Speaking of a long weekend, 5M's have only shown, like, this is a different composition already, and that's something that you got to keep in mind. The fact that they won and then swapped out the whole draft. That's not easy to do. That shows me that 5M's, they planned for a long weekend, right? They're like, we need to have a lot in the back pocket. And considering this gap was banned away in game 1 and they high prioed it, I want to see how Cherry ends up building this, because he is one of the smartest minds in the solo lane. Looks like a little bit of damage coming through immediately, but I can't imagine he builds this like he does Hades, right? Where it's like full one shot, just going to the back line. I assume a little bit more hybrid.
I believe around this time in game 1 was when we saw that first attempt at a sneaky pull. There was one that didn't work out in the Gold Fury for 5M's, but you called it. You got to be really on it on this Gold Fury if you're Food Drive for Globe. That is a must-do, because the Gold Furies went unmatched. There was 3 golds before 20 minutes setting up your Ancient Fury, which doesn't help everything else on the map with the passive buffs the Gold Fury gives.
I really love this pickup here from Mike. Ends up going Screeching Gargoyle, first item on Baron. And you might think, oh, why? It doesn't give you that many tank stats, you know, but look at, there's no beads on the side of Food Drive for Globe. Everyone gets affected by that silence happen. Does teleport out, and the confusion clone set up perfectly. Not a lot of grouping towards left, though. I mean, Valo and Scream have been over here once, really, and besides that, have more so just been focusing on their farm. Wouldn't have hated to see an Anvil of Dawn, just to sort of open things up, because Tegbeer, he can die. Like, this Zeus pick, even with a blink, is not going to be able to close gap and get away from the Thor, but I guess they're just worried about what Happen can transform into.
Scream here anyway, no Anvil of Dawn required for it, but there it is on cue. And Tegbeer get out of it, sidesteps it, turns with the ultimate. Can they get the damage across? Tegbeer's already dead to Scream on the double tap. A good attempt, but Food Drive could not get one back.
Teleported in though, Karmic is in the back line. Cherry's gotta go down here. If that's your target, it looks like that is what we want.
The pillar's out, they'll grab the one, go on to the next with no Cherry. How many more can you grab? Thor kind of in an awkward spot to the side. Valo sees it, takes the 1v1 to set up the backup, and a double kill for Valo.
Instant back as well. I mean, that was a great rotation from Cherry, but unfortunately 5M stuck around a bit too long. Finally, Cyclone's able to confirm that purple buff for himself, but shouts out to Karmic once again. As a solo laner, you have 2 options there. When your team gets out-rotated, you see Cherry sort of tearing up your back line. You say, okay, I can't rotate, I'm just going to push waves under, or I'm going to late rotate and make something happen. Karmic decided to make something happen, and it worked out for his squad.
We saw Scream spend so much time by the Gold Fury above it on the map towards that red side of the map, looking to set up, waiting for that opportunity in duo. You were talking about that needing to be a focus. How many more times can you commit to that to try to make that play happen, knowing that Food Drive can answer?
I mean, now that the blinks are down, that's a big difference, right? Tegbeer was able to get out of the life of the party for Mike because he had blink. He was able to sidestep Anvil of Dawn, but next time, you're going to be getting hit by that life of the party. You're going to be getting hit by that Anvil of Dawn. So I don't hate seeing Scream going over there in the next 2 minutes. You got plenty of time to do so. Tegbeer is still going to be a looming threat. Bracer first item. A lot of intelligence, a lot of attack speed. I mean, carry Zeus is always fun to watch because I don't think any two people really build him the same.
And Tegbeer had such a strong Founder series up to this point, and was always the one to go to the weird picks. How many times did we see this Asano shut down Zapman throughout the Founder series?
I just noticed, Cyclo at the Ruinous Bow, first item. It gives you an active effect, you shoot out an arrow, it's kind of slow, but it ends up anti-healing. It's an anti-heal item. Learning, my apologies. It's gonna be interesting. No one's nearby. Maybe Scream. We got Anvil of Dawn, but gold's getting low.
Been a month since they scrimmed, but a page out of 5M's books. Food Drive on the Gold Fury, and they get the first one without much of an answer. It's exactly what they have to do.
Rolling out, turned into Cherry just to get the extra shield, the extra damage. I don't hate it.
I love when Happen can kind of make a play like that happen. Sometimes Happen's one of the most interesting players just to watch the small mechanics of how he plays around the map. It's never not a good time.
I don't have a word to say when you say Happen makes things happen, but you get to repeat yourself. Oh, up in the sky.
Ult away. We're good. Another ult. That missed too. We're still good, Valo. Still good.
Yeah, Anvil of Dawn just doesn't quite have that distance. SMITE 2 has a much larger map, so you do go up and you're using your SMITE 1 plays. You're going to have to go down immediately if you want to try and answer, but Queen Naga spawned it, so then juggled around a bit. Finally ends up going down to Food Drive. I mean, they're putting together a nice early game, but again, you heard the death highlight. 5M's is a very solid late game with the Jing Wei, with the Gem, Makate's only getting better. It's not as if you could go into this even and feel that confident. You got to keep pushing this lead, and that's what Food Drive's doing. They're not afraid to pull objectives just to see what 5M's will do, just to see how they will react.
And with a 3K gold lead, we're only 10 minutes in, and like I said, with so much to go, Food Drive, they've been a team that takes it minute by minute. So maybe that's the best way to ramp yourself up into not being bothered by the late game. And there's one thing we know, it gets down to the small things, but mechanically, Food Drive can keep up in team fights. They've just got to get to a point where they're still relevant in those fights.
Absolutely. And the next fight that breaks out, no doubt, will be off the back of a solo lane rotation as well. Cherry and Karmic, both solo laners that have no problem teleporting over. They have no problem walking over just to try and make an impact to their squad. It does seem to me like Food Drive has got that fire under them now, though, where they're like, okay, we got aggressive, we were able to make some plays. Cannot lay on the brakes here, right? You gotta keep looking for the engagements. I talked about looking for an ult when Tegbeer's blink was down. That's no longer the case, but Cherry, he also has a blink. Can he get out?
Has the blink away, followed by Valo. Ults in response, but that damage could be too much. It is too much. A killing spree for Valo. A land down from Screen does not find him, but the stun does. But he gets the blink out, will not get away. Cyclone spin with a lot of shutdown gold.
I can't believe Valo had the blink the whole time. I just would have blinked Anvil of Dawn and ran away, but he tried to juke it and save the blink. It's such a long cooldown, but you can't be giving those kills up. I see no reason Valo should die there. Definitely not Globe. Still gonna get pulled back in though. Yeah, has the blink and use the storm call. That's tough. Baron ult is just so impactful, especially when you can close gap like Mike can.
For a lot of teams, Baron was the way they made it to the Georgia lane. There was a lot of upsets at that final knockout stage before we got to LAN. And Baron, that was one of the big reasons. And I think PBM is a good example of what it can do in support. We saw it in solo quite a bit at that time. And while it's received some nerfs, it still has that same Baron impact.
Absolutely, especially with the healing that can provide. And Mike, just going active items. Screeching Gargoyle into the beads. Worried about the CC immunity, worried about things like Karmic can happen.
One more option.
Up. Double Hades ult. It's just very scary to try and deal with. And that's what happens with going to more often than not. Especially when Karmic gets some more damage online. Having one Hades is hard enough to deal with. You throw two into the mix, you could be in some trouble.
Totem captured by Food Drive for Globe. Karmic keeping it clean. It's been pretty on it with those Warhorns if you can keep in track of when they go down, which helps immensely throughout laning.
Just trying to help buff those. Look at Cherry though on the left side of the map. Teleported over to try and steal some back.
Towards Pyro.
Right, it seems like he's one to steal these away because he knew the rotation could happen, but Tegbeer's here. He got good first. They're already up in the sky. Scream.
Valo would have called out the Geb, so they know he's not there. Scream's ult won't find a lot, but there's so much damage. Look how much that did to the Chalk. And Happen helps clean up Scream. How did Food Drive make that work? Now Valo's able to chase down Cherry, so that failed too. Oh, what a great play from Food Drive.
I mean, I saw Scream go up to the sky. I saw Globe teleport in as it happened. It all did seem great, but you don't want to lose Karmic before it starts. The Hades is gone, and 5M's, they picked up the Pyromancer.
It was looking so great, but that changes this dynamic a ton. The Pyro had to be let go. 5M's can step up a little bit more, and Cherry didn't die. So there was the writing on the wall of an awesome play that definitely simmered by the end.
Seems like we got a bit of a lane swap here. Cyclone Spin already has plenty of farm to his name, had a 2-level lead over Techbeer, and has now just went over to solo, while Cherry clears out duo lane. I mean, if your goal is to just wait, no, Cherry stays.
It takes so much.
Assassinate's not up yet,
rollout.
Your left tower. If Battle had ult, odd. Yeah, you're absolutely dying there. It's up in a couple seconds, so I think Cherry had that locked in. Bro's got the cooldowns down pat for sure. Regardless, 5M's just realized they've got a pretty easy win con here. Let Cyclone Spin farm. Let him get level 20, and he will just be able to tear apart the tankier targets on the side of Food Drive, which, if you're not following, is essentially 4 out of 5, right? I mean, right. Chalk is still basically a tank here, and Happen has been turning into either the Hades or the Chalk, so that extra Kins is certainly going to help out.
If Cyclone can blow them up, what else can you do? We saw how on it Cyclone's already been with that game 1 on the Uller. It's sort of tough to know where you can go from here. We're getting closer to 15 minutes. Fire Giant will be spawning soon. Remember, there was an instant pull from 5M's. There was the "we dared you to come at us" that turned so chaotic. I don't know if we're going to see the same thing.
Man, I am really shocked to see the value that 5M's has put on Screeching Gargoyle. I mean, even Scream goes in option 2 on the Thor. Like, you really aren't getting much value except for the active on Thor here. So clearly 5M's knows when you don't have beads, Food Drive that is, you're going to feel the wrath of that Screeching Gargoyle every single time. Karmic wants to get some damage. You can go for the ult here. No, you're just trying to be a nuisance to make sure Cherry doesn't grab that farm. But Gold Fury spawned in. Pyromancer is still able to be fought over. I still think Food Drive is, they're in the driver's seat here. I wouldn't be surprised to see them try and pull one of these.
Gotta watch out for Benny Q though. Top of the damage charts right now. In that last fight, we saw how much was done. You talked about the tankiness of Globe, but it was incredible how much damage Benny Q actually put onto the Chalk in that last one. I mean, it was like an 80 to 20 damage done. It was pretty insane.
Yeah, as Globe, you don't want to axe in too many times, right? If you can help it, keep your torrent, save it, relax, and then you go in when you're all in with your team. It was a maniac teleported. Ended up working out for the team because, you got follow-up with Karmic and Valor, but you don't be stepping up too far if you can help it. Still 5 grouped up here towards Pyromancer. Once you see Techbeer leave lane, that's when you know you're committing, because Zeus really can't get across the map as quickly as someone like Cyclone Spin. Doesn't have that flight to just zoom around, so Food Drive definitely showing their hands here, but not in the mood to go for the pull. Are they not looking for the engagement, or they want to fight first?
So many spots they can go through with it. Valo's still been hanging out in the duel, and we've seen him there for
right tower is
5 of the last 6 minutes up to this point. Just farming non-stop. You see the level difference in jungle. You see Karmic in trouble. Blink for Blink gets out of the Cataclysm just in time.
So much movement coming from the Hades. My goodness, I thought it was another Fire Giant pull from 5M's. Mike is the kind of guy that would do it just to see if he can start an engagement, even after your team uses that much utility, just to find a Blink. Going solo, great feeds. Valo has the CC immunity. Does not end up using it because guess what? Cherry's just fine. It seems like Valo has been hunting Cherry
every
a lot.
time. I was just going to say that. It's been a non-stop target acquired thing, and Cherry hasn't been tanky enough to get through a lot of it.
And Benny Q, if he's taking that damage, sure, you have to watch out for open the gates, but he's going to be feeling that damage, whereas Cherry, see how tanky he's been building. He can take a little bit of, cooldown resets here from Loki, no problem. Techbeer still hasn't left. 2 on the side of 5M's on the left lane. I don't hate this call. I think they should pull this.
5M's would have to have a quick answer. The closest buy would be Benny Q and PBM, but their answer is that Gold Fury with 2 on it. The closest for Food Drive is Karmic. Can he get to the gold in time? Down to 1,000. Close call. Not going to be enough. That Gold Fury goes to 5M's, putting us at 1 apiece.
And I know that we have the bird's eye view. We know that Pyromancer should have been pulled there, but Food Drive, when I called for them to be more aggressive, feels like they just got out of the car entirely, right? Yeah. They've just been sitting back. I've seen no aggression besides Valo onto Cherry, which I don't even know if it really counts as aggression because the kill almost never is going to be coming through in that matchup. I love that play from 5M's. It's just experience showing. They know when they can go in, and they know when your hammer's down and you got to get away from Hades. Scream just sent it. Gotta continue farming.
The experience paid off right there for Scream. Instantly knew he was in trouble and wasted no time, but still hanging out. Karmic gets closer, gets stunned away. Agony out, double tap away. Scream still will be chased, but okay for the moment. Another chase going down in the right lane. A knock up keeps Valo back, and a dash in from Cyclone Spin, but where do you go with all this damage? Valo re-engages on the Cheerio, gets the ult, and Tekfir locks down the kill. Now PBM looking to bring somebody in. Cyclone Spin gets away. Tekfir gets a big shield. Can he bring him down? Not quite. Valo lost his life, and after Benny killed him, he'll look for Tekfir and lock it down with Scream.
Huge rotation for Benny Q, and it doesn't seem like they're done yet. A hammer and a wall, anything on to happen could open up a fight for Benny Q to try and find. Wall's good. You have a teleport. Yes, you do. That's how you play the Morgan. Happen. Thinking ahead, just in case he gets walled off. But man, that could have been massive for Food Drive if Benny Q wasn't able to find that kill in the back line. I mean, that rotation was clutch for sure. We're starting to see the XP start to climb a little bit as well. Like Sherry, sure, he's been getting the negative end of the stick. He's 3 levels down, but Benny Q's looking good, level 18. Cyclone Spin was, I think, like 4 levels up at one point, now sitting at 2. But regardless, level 19 Jingwei, top farm in the game besides Karmic, though, even XP-wise.
Scream in the air, almost caught Karmic, who gets damage back on with the Pillar of Agony on his way out the door to some safety. So a couple big ultimates down. But the Pyromancer being the main thing up in this right side soon, there's not too much to freak out about yet.
Yeah, and I'd feel remiss if I didn't remind everyone, if you haven't been hopping in and you're looking at Hades, and you're like, this guy's moving a lot. He's using a lot of cooldowns very quickly. I don't see anything like Staff of Beard. And Hades and Smite 2 can use any of his abilities in his ult once. You get to choose between a slam, a silence, or you can move while casting Codes of Agony. And if you dash, ult, blink, that, like, you can get across the map very quickly. That's why Karmic can play as aggressively as possible, because he knows he has so many different tools to get out of trouble if he takes that bait.
And those are the +1s, the same Hades ultimate you'll know and love from Smite 1, which gives him that added tankiness, not be as afraid to go in and make the play happen. Pyro and Fire are both up, 20 minutes is crossed, and we got our next engagement, and a lot of damage on Glow, but it does get away just in time.
And they've been using this wall as an engage tool pretty well. Scream just goes for it, doesn't really double tap, just tries to see exactly what can happen. Pyromancer getting low, Happen the only one who can even try and steal, and PBM gets it no problem, but now Happen's in trouble.
Now gets locked down, stunned away, Scream looks for it, turns into Chalk, Happen uses that to create some space, blinks away, has a Torrent online, and jukes it indeed, but Scream's still on the chase. Who's gonna be your target? Food Drive split, but it's not a good split for Karmic, who goes down to Benny Q.
A lot of damage coming in. The chase is good, and Cyclone's been weak. Can anyone cover the option? Yeah, Valo takes that one up, no problem, but they're not done.
Valo was not gonna miss, but now you've got Globe, who's stuck against the wall, and Scream brings him down. 5M's group back up in the stealth grass, looking for more to get, but they've got to go on to retreat. Scream took too much damage. Benny Q is low as well, and Tekfir here, almost at full strength minus ult. He could have blown them up.
And if Valo was able to get to the backline, that definitely could have been a different engagement. But Tekfir finally getting online. We're starting to see the value in this Zeus pick. Stole top damage away from Benny Q. Has not really stopped since some of this crit has been online. Remember, this is auto attack Zeus, but Bracer is going to give you some strong intelligence as well for your abilities. Good damage there from Valo, but didn't quite have Assassinate, so Benny Q lives to see another day.
Thought maybe Valo would go for it. Even with that ultimate, you can tell that Valo's kind of got that energy.
He's feeling himself
about
for
him.
sure.
Yeah, not afraid at all, but we have a replay of that previous fight to break down.
Yeah, there's already, you just got to save your axe for the ult in. Happen. Guns out. Karmic, unfortunately, is in a terrible spot, though. Could not blink away. Beautiful open the gates from Benny Q. And all looks lost here up until Valo gets the clutch kill, and you see 5M start the turn.
Over on the live side of things, Scream just stopped a Gold Fury by simply going into the sky and scaring away Food Drive for Globe. So that Gold Fury will be stopped. No fear at all, and a great use of the Anvil of Dawn.
Yeah, but it started
Go
back
right
up.
back.
Yeah, I mean, now you don't have Anvil of Dawn. We've reset, no problem. Are we worried about an axe? Are you worried about someone coming from the back line? I mean, Tekfir should have a solid detonate here just to go for it, and he absolutely will. Easy confirmation there for Food Drive for Globe.
They extend their lead back to what's been a comfortable point for them so far as we take a look at what those Gold Fury buffs bring, but Perhaps more importantly, 5M's, they did this in the previous game, looking for a sneaky fire. Food Drive, they know they've got to find their way in at some point. Karmic, Helm of Darkness, looking for the play, looking for the steal. Cyclone Spin, able to get the secure. Benny Q brings down Globe to start it up, and 5M's will start cleaning house right after, but Fallow still fighting through it. Fallow loves these odds, gets another one too! A double for Fallow, and Food Drive for Globe. They will still stand. Fallow will still fight with his daggers and grab another with Tech Beer. PBM goes down. That's 3 Fire Giants gone, but Scream pulls up with the double just to get shut down. 4 Fire Giants cleared.
1v1 Cherry versus happen at this point. You're happy if you're Food Drive. I mean, you take Fire Giant off of 4, but man, that's another engagement where Karmic does nothing. That Hades got shut down, didn't get to ult, got CC'd. If we see a Hades ult in that fight, I mean, Food Drive win it hands down. It just couldn't happen. This Hades, unfortunately, ends up getting hit by so much CC, and that's the negative about going this full damage build. You don't have the squad beats for your team. You don't have your blink available. If you don't get Pillar of Agony off, these screeching gargoyles are just gonna make your life terrible.
The consistency at which Fallow will fight against all odds in the Fire Giant pit should be studied. I've never seen a player do that so consistently.
And especially when, by all accounts, his team should have been calling to retreat, right?
Exactly.
When they got Fire, we lost Karmic, let's bail. And Valor said, no, I'm level 20, I've got plenty of damage online. I have noticed that Cyclone Spin's been the target more often than not. This Jingwei doesn't have Aegis and isn't critting that hard yet. So Valor's winning those trades. You let Cyclone Spin get full build, you don't want to be that close to Jingwei anymore.
Does that create ticking time bomb? You have one more kind of big fight, maybe 2 more before those items come online. It's a big question. It needs to be answered by Food Drive and Globe. Pyromancer, there will be no answer this time as it goes right to 5M's for free.
Looks like Globe's going to take a little bit of damage once again. Chalk has been pretty solid about getting out of trouble when it needs to be. It's like a beautiful... Oh, pulls in 3! Are you kidding?
So many! And look at the damage right after! Food Drive were not ready for all that damage. Scream slants down, and Food Drive is getting wiped off the map. It's already 2 gone. Happen almost spelled 2. Valo could not make a play off the back of that one. It was just 2 on it from 5M's.
I cannot believe that Benny just throws out a raw, open the gates and pulls back 3. This is why Beats needs to be prioritized on solo laners, because Happen didn't have it. He couldn't help him out. I guess your idea is if Happen turns into someone with Beats, then you can cleanse, but there's no way you see open the gates, transform, Beats for your team all before it hit. It's just not gonna happen.
Valo's looking for something, anything, but it's just a bit too risky to go in that mid lane. And 5M's, they want to take advantage of it. They step into that middle Phoenix. And Food Drive, their answer is not too there, but look at the damage Decoy did to Cyclone Spin.
Yeah, there's a lot of damage coming from Valo, just not really anyone else at the moment. I mean, Tiger does damage before he dies, but that Shifters has really put a little bit of a stop. Your survivability shoots up,
yeah, because you had pointed out that he jumped up for a while.
Right, and now he's kind of been left in the wayside. I mean, it's actually pretty crazy to see Valo on the top of the charts, because Loki, sure, the poke starts to add up now in this at this point in the game, but early on, you don't have a lot of poke damage. You're really just single target, all in or nothing. But Valo, with the Decoy, with the Crusher, with the Heartseeker, those procs are going to start to add up here.
Gold Fury, looked at by Food Drive for Globe. This is the Ancient Fury. So 5M's, they put emphasis on the contest. They back up Food Drive for now.
That'll be a smart call. Scream's nearby, but hasn't went to the sky, and actually ults in on the Scream.
Oh! Beautiful! Soloed in the jungle. Scream didn't know what hit him. Food Drive for Globe, they were stepping up to Gold Fury. I don't think they ever thought there was going to be a 1v1 picked.
And Val just jumped up 3,000 damage. My goodness, this Loki can do no wrong. Finally, Ancient Fury started up again for Food Drive. The crowd's starting to feel themselves. They're starting to enjoy the game for the Food Drive wins. They want a game 3 here.
They do. Food Drive for Globe won them over. Remember what they said. We never think we're going to lose. We always think we're going to win, no matter what is placed against us. And as right as they started to give the game back, they take it in their hands, and Valo is leading the way.
Scream's going to have beads next up. So won't be in too much trouble of getting 1v1, at least as long as you're on point with your team. Cherry's nearby. That's the thing. You have to be really close to your supports when there's a Loki that's loose in the jungle. Because if you're not close for the beats, close for the shield, you're going to lose that 1v1 every single time. I would argue there's no one on the map currently that could beat Valo in a 1v1 until Cyclone finishes his build. Then it starts to get, did I ult the ult? Did I dash away? Can I create distance? Fire Giant is going to be a topic of conversation. Pyromancer has spawned in. Both squads are here.
Never feels like you're getting gold slower than when you need that last item to come online. And as the Fire Giant dance begins, remember how Food Drive has played these. They're not afraid, no matter what goes down. They will fight until everybody's off the map on their side. Food Drive for Globe just has no fear of these Fire Giants.
Yeah, but you also have to keep an eye on Valo, and I'm sure that's being called out because how many times has he got to the backline doing just this? Mike covered it this
They're
time.
too smart about it happen again.
Right. They are covering the ability to get to the backline. And Cyclone Spin is like, guys, please do not let this guy dive me again for free. We need to make sure he's getting damage on him because something I've noticed, Valo usually ends these fights full health as well, right? He is not getting touched. He waits for his team to go in because he has 2 Chalk ults, a Hades ult, maybe 2 Hades ults. His whole team's getting things down for him so he can clean up. They're all playing through Valo.
Pyromancer pulled by Food Drive for Globe, and it's free, so a bomb in pocket, and Food Drive continuing to up the arsenal. Happen goes in aggressive, PBM with an answer, but Happen is able to sidestep it with the Torrent. But look who's low, it's Globe, he's gone. BennyQ locks it down, just too much damage to answer. Scream gets a catch with the wall, doesn't go all the way through. Food Drive just got way too spread.
Yep, Val had to assassinate aggressively. Karmic maybe in some trouble with the chase down, but 5M's have something else in mind. The Fire Giant is what they are after. Gotta defend it 5v4, and Cyclone Spin has everything. Beads, ult, the Jigway's full HP. This is gonna be scary stuff. Someone's gonna have to stop it, but 5M's aren't interested?
I thought that was it for sure. They pulled it in the face of them multiple times. They're never afraid to go for it. Is that a respect play? Is it a... I mean, it was only Globe. I'm so confused.
I'm trying to look at the relics here. I mean, you got a Runic Bomb. The Tegbeer has ult, I guess Lightning Storm scary. Grouping up in the Fire Giant pit and just letting Tegbeer rain down hell is scary, but I think that was a pull opportunity for sure. I mean, 5M's at the very least could have baited it, but clearly they had a different call. Maybe there was a big power spike. Cyclone Spin didn't quite finish his build, so regardless, finally they start up, but Globe can make it here if this stalls out.
It's going to be quick for 5M's. They've got it down to half already. So if you're Food Drive for Globe, you've got to make the call, and you've got to get it right. In the air is Scream. The land down. He takes a lot of damage.
Scream's dead.
Might regret going in, as he is indeed dead. The Fire Giant goes to 5M's, and they handled the problem child. Valo is put down, and Cherry's looking to set up a kill on to Happen as well.
Can anyone get to the back line? Globe finally uses the ultimate, but Cyclone uses it. Happen. He's going to be low.
He turned the corner, right in front of him, gone! Double kill for Cyclone Spin. This was the Fire Giant 5M's was waiting for. It was clean this time, but Tegbeer sends some back. That's going to go through the team, but no picks.
Well played on the shield there. Tegbeer even tried to wait it out. Globe gonna try and chase down, but doesn't have anything to close gap. Blink, not available. Storm Call, not available. 5M's are gonna leave with Fire Giant on forward. It's a huge win. Definitely could have been worse though. You mentioned it though, Mal. I mean, Valo has been dealt with the past 2 times. He has not been able to get in and out of the backline. It seems like 5M's have his number now. So if you are going to try and do this play where you just sit back and let your team go forward, I mean, Karmic and Happen are gonna have to go in first.
Let's take a look at that last fight, and let's do a ride-along forward and see what Cyclone Spin was going throughout that fight.
I mean, he saved his ultimate so well, really wasn't under any fire, and that was my whole point, is that everything was just saved almost for him to succeed. Picked up the dagger, immediately crits Loki twice, just says, here's 1,200 damage to your face. And he's just free casting.
Nobody's bothering him at all. And that ult was perfect too, the timing was safe. A Gold Fury was just picked up by 5M, so they're gonna add that onto the list. And with how Cyclone's looking for us, it's pretty, I think our eyes need to start shifting. And you were talking about it. Finish that last item and it's a monster, and I see a Deathbringer.
Yep, that's what he was looking for. Now he's got 2 crit items. Jingwei is gonna be critting way more often and much harder, which is certainly going to help out. Now you fear for Valo. Valo's like, you know what, instead of bullying this guy, I kind of want to stay away from him. I kind of want to look towards Benny, who, by the way, is still popping people like gushers at this point. The Kate late game, fully itemized 7 and 2. BennyQ's got the burst damage, and I want to see open the gate fly through.
Sieges have begun, and 5M's is cleaning up the towers on the map. There's one thing they'll do with fire, it's be surgical. No mistakes on simple things like this, but where does Food Drive plant their flag to defend?
They have options to just defend the Phoenix if they so choose, but I think they're going to split push a little bit. You can see Valo sort of waiting to see if he can solo Scream again. Would be big if you can close gap onto the Thor, because even in a movie, Scream can't 1v1 Valo. Like, if you're not ulting on through Anvil of Dawn, you are losing that trade, but already Happen's going in.
They left their left Phoenix alone. Happen will step back. Food Drive played it risky, but it's working out for the time being. But now you have no Morgan ultimate for the ensuing onslaught that's seemingly not stopping.
Right, but Scream ulted as well. You lose Anvil of Dawn. Karmic did use his stealth there, so a lot of cooldowns coming through. But what was important was getting the beads down, right? That's the reason that Happen went forward, trying to get the door open.
Right.
The cooldown for Cherry, but now Mike's purification is up. So that's the benefit of having two, as I mentioned earlier.
Cherry rolls into the mid Phoenix. 5M's trying to find their way through, looking for a 2-0, an exclamation point to start the weekend. But Food Drive for Globe, remember, they're never afraid of the odds of situation, and they do not want to go down to that loser's bracket. But with damage like that, they might not have a choice. Globe able to escape it.
Comes the party, trying to pull someone in. It looks like Tekner's in trouble, actually does get hit, but Mike's taking a lot of damage. He's getting crit.
Same damage on the Food Drive. First one down is Karmic, second one is PBM. So 1-for-1 trade so far. Valo sees Penny Q, wants to find a way through, but Cherio cuts it off, does not let it go down that way. A lot of poke in the 5M, so they had to back out. Only one Phoenix secured.
Remember, Happen ulted at the start of this fight. His ult is almost back up, and no one's left yet. I believe Scream trying to go to the sky, see what he can find with the Anvil of Dawn. Ends up landing on the Pyromancer. The Food Drive for Globe is not chasing this. I would have thought they'd try and go in for a little bit of an engagement game. I guess there's too much on the line now. You said it yourself. Start off the weekend strong. You definitely don't want to start off the week with a 2-0. So Food Drive is going to go on back and try and prepare themselves for this next Fire Giant defense. Some big power spikes are still to come. You would love to see a full build Globe. You would love to see Happen just get a little bit tankier. It seems like that's going to be the end for the Morrigan. He's got to try and turn into someone that's a bit tankier. Regardless, the engage has consistently been a chocolate. Whether it's Happen or Globe, a chocolate is starting off these fights. 5M's, they pop beads, they pop Gargoyle, they pop Stampede, and they say, now what? Now where's your engage? Try again, but we have multiple active items, we have multiple cooldowns, and Food Drive just doesn't.
And a complete reversal from game one. We're 35 minutes in now in what is a close game. One middle Phoenix down. That belongs to the order side of Food Drive for Globe. And that's something you have to respect. Fire minions will pour through, and they can really do a number on your Titan in SMITE 2. We've seen that throughout the Founder Series as well. So 5M's, they're playing with the advantage right now. How do you make the most of it?
You probably send Valo to clear mid, and maybe you look to try and pick. I mean, Scream has been starting off fights, not really with Anvil of Dawn, but with Wall. That Wall is such a long-range CC, and so much damage comes from it. Again, we've highlighted this time and time again, but it hasn't changed. There is no beads on the side of Food Drive for Globe besides on Happen. So a Wall, you can't blink out of it unless you blink the wall beforehand. You can't ult out of it unless you use it beforehand. You have to be on point, and no one is respecting Scream when he walks up like that.
Fire Giant, Waters being tested. Valo not close. Valo a key in this next Fire Giant fight for Food Drive for Globe. We saw the ones where it worked. In the previous one, you expected an answer, and it was there. As soon as Valo showed face, 5M's knew the priority, and they shut it down. So how do you adjust to that if you're Food Drive with Valo? Do you play it different? Do you keep him back towards the end?
Yeah, for me, it's Karmic and Happen. That's how you make it. That's how you change it, because they have to go in first. It cannot be Valo. He can't get to the backline anymore. Happen is the guy who's been poking, with Dark Omen, sort of feeling everything out, but that Chockle, that Hades ult we were talking about, needs to come in first. And 5M's, it seems like they're welcoming it, right? They're just standing there saying, hey, we know you're not going to engage. Your Phoenix is down. We have time. The second that wave pushes up a little bit more and they see someone's clearing in base, that's when Fire Giant becomes a topic of conversation. 5M's is a team that's not going to make too many of those mistakes. Happen's clone did get stuck, forced to teleport a little bit late, but still gets out with a shell.
So some poke on to Happen now. Earlier Happen so energetic, trying to rally the troops up against a team who knows how to do that and knows how to stay strong. They've got a leader like PBM, and this Fire Giant will be the test of all of that. What have you learned so far? In goes Happen, and down he goes just as quickly. And the response in the backline for 5M's is to just blow everybody up. 4 dead when 5M's turn to dust. It's a deicide in SMITE, and that's what 5M's finds.
And again, you can see Karmic didn't ult, Globe didn't ult, Techbeer didn't ult. They got silenced. Screeching Gargoyle ruined this whole composition. I just can't help but think if one more beats comes in, Valo almost did it himself. Just a little bit of CC immunity goes a long way, but they didn't have it. You gotta give props to 5M's. They cooked up 2 different game-winning compositions, and they'll put themselves in a great spot to start off this weekend.
Food Drive for Globe fought to the last man, the last one standing, but it was not enough. And 5M's, a team of champions, beginning their road closer to the first championship for SMITE 2.
Man, this is going a lot slower than you expect. My goodness, the damage with just a couple of tanks. Listen to that crowd. They're happy to see it.
A popular team and a well-deserved victory. Again, credit to Food Drive for Globe for making that a fight. Even that last one showing just the smallest sign there was a possibility. But that possibility, that dream, it was quenched very quickly.
But here's what you got to think about. All these teams got to watch 5M's there. They played 2 very different drafts. Food Drive for Globe arguably played the same comp twice.
True.
So have they showed their whole hand? Is that all Food Drive has to offer? Is 5M's, what else do they have? That's stuff we don't have to think about, but the other teams do.
Yeah, that's really true. And if I'm Food Drive for Globe, and we heard them, we know they're not afraid of these situations, that's the advantage that you have, is going forward, you have not just the ability to keep your team comps a bit more of a secret, but you still have the confidence. You could see them on stage. Down to that last moment, Happen was still rallying the troops. When Valo was making that play, it was still a go, go, go. There's a chance it ends up short, but I would refuse to count them out at this point.
No, absolutely not. I don't think that Food Drive for Globe is counting themselves out. They're definitely a little bit upset about this one. You don't want to get 2-0'd especially, because you could have learned a little bit more in a 3-game set regardless. But still 2 teams that are absolute threats, and what a great way to start off our weekend.
I know, and how much was established there from 5M's too. There was so much. Like you said, what a way to start off the Founder Series Championship in the HyperX Arena, but I know who I want to hear from. I want to hear the desk break down that game. Over to you guys.
Thanks so much, Malum and Trelly, and of course, a great set 1. Gore again here to I guess close out this set with Inbound and Hazer. That entire game, there's probably a lot to lock in on, but something I wrote down, Inbound, I think you said in like the very first picks and bans, was Loki being like the best jungler if you can't get Aladdin. And so realistically seeing that, and I think that we got to see kind of a lot of that, like Valo, like, yes, it's an 0-2 loss, right, for one side here, but when you look at it, how many teams are dragging 5M's to 40 minutes? How many teams are giving them that much trouble? How many Lokis are getting into the back line and ruining your day? I just feel like they showcase something that has happened every time. They're super competitive against 5M's, and then the stat line, at least the score line, I guess, never really gets to show it as much as it is.
Yeah, and I think we see why this 5M's team is the favorite. They make really good calls. They're really simple calls. Everyone can really follow them. And they have really easy to play comps. Like, there's nothing difficult with this comp. Thor wall, Thor ult, Geb ult, those are your engages, and then you just play around that. I also think when it came to those later game portions of the game, Karmic was just unable to really do anything. A lot of the times he would just die without ulting, whether it was like a silence from the Screeching Gargoyle, whether it was just the CC, and the Chalk really wasn't able to get too many things done. A lot of the times they won those fights, Happen was popping off with Valo, and it was up to them to kind of save face, with Techbeer a little bit kind of cleaning up a little bit. It was, I mean, this is just kind of what SMITE is. Like, you could play a perfect game, and you get to that last final team fight. If Karmic gets an ult off in that last fight, if Techbeer does also, maybe we're singing a different tune, but really good Screeching Gargoyle by Scream, really good ult by Scream, and then it was just a really clean team fight all around.
Yeah, the flow of the team fights is what really impressed me from 5M's. They had to deal with this dive coming into them, you know, they had the Morrigan transforming into the Hades or the Chak and diving with the Hades and the Chak, you know, you got 2 Chaks or 2 Hadeses diving your backline. But the way that they dealt with it was they used the Screeching Gargoyle to stop them getting those engaged tools off, and then they had Geb's shield and Hecate shield to stop that magical damage, taking their backline out, and the return damage from the Jing and the Hecate was absolutely intense. But yeah, I really liked the way they played team fights here. I think they played their comp fantastically, and I think they drafted a really good comp into what Food Drive wanted to do.
Yeah, I know we were talking a little bit going into that game about how the late game would be a little more awkward. I know there was some discussion, I think, in between about, well, I thought that, but maybe the builds didn't quite line up. I also, I've kind of wanted to pick your guys' brain because I feel like it's not too often, not every day. First off, at least when Food Drive plays, maybe it is every day, you do typically get to see a Zeus ADC. They're one of the only let's be real. They're the only team that does it. Not every day you get a crit Zeus ADC. That one kind of caught me off guard, but I know it was the other side inbound. I think that you were mentioning that you were thinking, oh, they'll scale really well. And then there was some point, maybe 15, 16 minutes, and you were like, kind of depends on the builds right now because it didn't seem like it was going the direction to get as powerful as they did.
Yeah, and you look at the Zeus build, you look what he opted for. He opted for, a little bit of crit, a little bit of shifters. You can't really threaten the Geb with the build that he went for. You had to wait until that Kin's 5th item, and it was something Aggro pointed out where, I mean, who else are you really killing? Really the only frontliner is the Geb that is playing forward. Yeah, I mean, Scream died a couple times instantly in those team fights, but my worry is just like nobody could really kill Cherry, and part of it comes down to Tegbeer's build.
Yep, and even Scream opted for that Screeching Gargoyle, as mentioned earlier, a heavy magical protection item. I mean, that helps him with the Zeus damage. The Zeus doesn't have the damage to kill people. The Chak's not going to do it. The Hades is going to be trying to dive the backline, so you have no tools to kill frontline. Yeah, Valo, fantastic game from him, but I just don't think it was enough. I think the low key was the real bright spark there from Food Drive for Globe.
Well, they played well. Food Drive for Globe, as you saw in the bracket just a second ago. We'll see, again, that's not the end of the road for them. They just are backs against the wall, right? Time to perform.
Losers run.
If you're looking at the other team, 5M's, tomorrow they get to play in a really big set, but for now, they get to celebrate a 2-0, and who else better to hear from than Scream, who's down on the stage for an interview.
That's right, I got Scream Jungler for 5M's. Clearly a fan favorite here, Scream. You get the first big win out of the way. You feel a little bit of pressure off to get that first set done.
Yeah, the nerves, it's been, a year or so since I've been up on the stage here, and the nerves were definitely setting in a little before the set. But once we got in and we got focused, I think they kind of vanished with the win.
I'm going to give your team some credit for this question. Walk me through the Thor ults there in game number 2.
I think I hit 1 the entire game. It wasn't great, but they did use a lot of stuff on me, though. So I was making space, as some might say.
That's right, you're making space. And now you find yourself in a really important set tomorrow, and you were kind of breaking it down with me. A couple of wins, and you find yourself in the finals. Is this team playing its best Smite at the right time?
Yeah, I mean, Benny Q just runs this game, so we just kind of sit there and wait for him to carry us.
And that's a good question. This is Benny Q's first time on a stage in front of fans, which is hard to believe. He's been playing for a long time and now joins you guys and you qualify in. How's Benny taking this morning?
Benny played great. I mean, he played like normal Benny, which is perfect because he owns.
Yeah, Necronomicon game number 1, that speaks to some level of confidence. Really tough opponents on the other side. That game 2, back and forth. Did Food Drive for Globe surprise you, catch you off guard, or did you know they'd be a tough opponent?
No, I mean, they've been consistently, top 3 in North America for the 6 months that we've been playing. No surprise that they were good. But, we've taught them a lot of what they know. That's all. I mean, that's just how it goes. Yeah, I mean, I think they're good.
Scream wrote the book. Appreciate it, Scream. 5M's off to winning ways here to start off our Smite 2 Founder Series. We're going to head to a quick break, and when we come back, set number 2.